Hey guys, PIEGUYRULZ here, and have you ever been depressed? Have you ever felt lost? Have you ever felt like you don't know if you can be the good person that you want to be? Have you had complex issues in your life? Well, we don't have any solutions to those, but we are going to talk about a BoJack Horseman and a Tuca and Bertie episode, along with all sorts of other news and stuff we got going on. I am joined by MonstersReview.
Hey, what's up?
And we are also joined by our favorite, sometimes silent, Steven Universe fanatic.
You
Lea.
said you weren't gonna bring that up, Pie, but hello.
I needed something to introduce you with, alright?
You could have just said that blue Steven Universe girl. I think that would have worked. It's all good, though. My microphone is working.
So yeah, we've got a good show. I guess we kept this topic a mystery.
Yeah. No poll, no Discord channel.
I guess I won't tell you which BoJack and Tuca and Bertie episodes we're comparing. You'll just have to wait and see towards the end of the episode. But as a lot of people know, BoJack is my favorite show, so I have a lot to talk about. Me and Cosmo talked about both these shows like a little bit a few weeks ago, but we're gonna do a deep dive.
No pun intended.
Right. Oh gosh. We also have some stuff we watched, including All That.
Yeah.
I don't even know what this is, so I'm excited to hear about it.
I don't know how you haven't heard about All That.
Yeah.
It's been all over Twitter.
Has it really? I must just follow the wrong people for that then.
Also, I think some people on this podcast watch Amphibia. Maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was real good. I watched it like 5 minutes ago.
And then there's a little bit of news. We covered a lot of news last week on the live cast, but there's some stuff that came out more since then. And yeah, that's gonna be our show. Lea, we haven't had you on. Well, we had you on like 10 episodes ago. How you doing though?
I'm doing good. I mean, I just got back from MomoCon like a few weeks ago.
Right.
Yeah, I was on the animation showcase. That was a lot of fun. I also was on the Frederator panel, but the showcase, we showed off like a bunch of cartoons like Long Gone Gulch and Has Been Hotel. It was really fun to talk about those. Also, Long Gone Gulch looks amazing. I don't know if you guys have seen the trailer, but it looks so good. And there was also, I'm not sure if they released the footage from MomoCon yet, but it's on the showcase recording,
Right.
which is on
the showcase one was definitely a VOD on Twitch, if nothing else. I don't know if it still is, but
yeah, it's on the round table right now. They uploaded the entire thing. I think that they have the clip up there. But if you guys haven't seen like the footage that was only shown at MomoCon, it was really nice too. The animation is just it reminds you something from the types of cartoons that we grew up with. Like it reminds me a bunch of Billy and Mandy, and I'm not sure why that is, but it just kind of throws off that feeling.
Right.
if you're looking for which one Lea is on the animation showcase, she's the one hiding behind Vivsy.
Okay. There were so many people up on that stage. Like there was so many of us. I also I did the Smash video for the introduction for that panel.
Oh yeah, you did
too.
that video.
Yeah.
You did
That was a
great
really cool video.
Thank you. But when I was working on it, there were so many people, and more people were just adding on, and I'm like, there's so many people here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get all these done. And I did, like, 3 days before I had to leave. So, but there was a lot of people, so don't give me that.
I guess you could say everyone was there.
That was maybe the point
I
of
was
it.
in the In Memoriam video, and I didn't even go to MomoCon.
All right, monsters, how have you been? I hear it took some time to realign something.
It did. It took some time to realign my channel.
Oh no!
And yeah, I finally posted that somewhat anticipated Drake and Josh video. It went
Very
up,
anticipated.
It went up Friday. If you haven't seen it and you're remotely interested in Drake and Josh and want to hear what I think about it, it's like 20 minutes long. It's on my YouTube channel.
Man, you're really not selling this very well. Okay, let me help you. Yeah. You're telling like the parameters of the video, like, oh, it's in a 16 by 9 aspect ratio.
1080p.
Right, it's got stereoscopic sound.
Yeah.
29 frames per second.
Monsters' Drake and Josh video is really good, and he showed a bunch of us, a bunch of people had been on the recast, and like everyone that's seen it has had glowing things to say. Like I know I saw it and loved it. And yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not doing a great job selling either. But basically, Monsters did a good job of giving this kind of like retrospective, like just a look back. Basically, you say it's not a review, and it's not really a review, but it is kind of like a look back, kind of an examination of a few elements of the show and why it works, why something might not. I don't know. It's very chill.
Yeah, that's a word that's been used to describe me a couple times. Well, yeah, I appreciate all your feedback, and yeah,
it was like the first 20 minutes of my life that I've known you that you didn't mention Camp Laszlo.
What about Camp Laszlo?
Camp Laszlo? Is it time for Camp Laszlo?
Yes, it is.
Oh, gosh.
LAZLO.
But yeah, no, it's really good. Please support it. There might not be another Monsters Review video for another 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay. I kind of did a thing. I edited a Phantom Strider video. That's kind of like making a video, right?
I saw that. Yeah, you guys should check that out. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess I haven't really said anything about this, but yeah, I've been doing some editing for Phantom Strider. I've been doing all of the audio editing for the past 2 or 3 videos, I believe, and then just a little bit of video editing for like some of the top 10 lists. But the Mr. Burns, how much is Mr. Burns worth? The crossover with 10K Productions. I edited basically all of that. He put in some finishing touches at the end, Phantom Strider, but I edited most of that. So yeah, check it out. And the video is actually really good aside from my edits. It's really interesting to see how they decide to calculate Mr. Burns' worth. It's not just like, Mr. Burns earned $500 in this episode. It's like, well, if he runs a nuclear power plant, here's how much a power plant generates, and here's how much they'd realistically be selling. And they take into account like investments and all sorts of other stuff. It's pretty cool. And check out 10K Productions' other videos on similar subjects where he calculates the worth of different characters.
Yeah, I told Pi, because I have basically no knowledge or interest in The Simpsons, the fact that it caught my attention is really special.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. So we have a Discord server.
Yep.
It was closed last week because we close it when we do live streams so we don't get people spamming horrifically gory images again.
Oh boy.
And thank you to those of you who showed up for the live stream.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Of course. But anyway, our Discord is open again, so if you want to join it for the next live stream or just to hang out, please do. And yes, thanks everyone that showed up for the live stream. That last live stream was amazing.
Yep.
We had some technical issues and not preparing trivia well enough, but you guys were all super patient, super wonderful. Lots of great comments. You made me laugh quite a few times. Great insights into the Lorax.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. Hey, the Lorax is an all right movie, Lea. Don't even laugh.
They spoke for the guy that speaks for the trees.
I'm allowed to. Pi, I went to school for environmental science for 6 years. I'm allowed to laugh at the Lorax.
Have you seen the original Lorax, like the special?
I have not. I have seen the movie though, the one with the one slur that Tumblr was crazy about.
Oh no! Oh yeah. I tried to stay away from that topic, even though people were mentioning it. Of course, Lea. Of course.
Did you see my correction that I put in there?
Please describe it.
Okay, so there's a tree in California that supposedly Dr. Seuss used as the as reference or inspiration for the Truffula trees and the Lorax in general. Well, the day after our live cast, it fell down.
Oh no!
Are you Oh no!
So, are we cursed?
It's awful.
The recast cursed?
Maybe we inspired someone.
I think it naturally.
It's not a good
I don't think
thing
they
to
gave a reason for why
inspire,
it fell down, but nonetheless, it's like a really old tree. They said like 80 to 100 years old. So
I mean, it looked top heavy, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think I know which one you guys are talking about, because when I was taking environmental science classes, we talked about that tree a lot. So that's real sad.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Can we get some Fs in the chat for the Lorax tree?
some Fs.
Some Fs. Yeah. Where was the Lorax today?
Crying.
Yeah.
Dan DeVito, step up.
Why didn't lightning shoot down?
So, Lea.
Yes.
have you watched anything of particular note in the past week or so?
Okay, so I've watched Amphibia's first 2 episodes, like I said before. They were really good, and then I also watched Agretsuko Season 2, which was also pretty good. So, if you guys don't know what that is, it's a Netflix show about a red panda that does screamo music whenever she's upset. Don't worry, it's better than what it sounds. It's really good.
Relatable.
But yeah, it was good. It covered a lot more serious topics than I thought it was going to, and the last episode actually made me cry, which you wouldn't think for the type of show that it is that it would, but it did. But it was good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I watched it with some friends, and we just binge watched all of the new episodes that came out.
What's the show about?
It's kind of slice of lifey. The main character has this office job that she really hates, and she has like this really bad boss who is unironically a pig. Like, he's actually a pig. And it's basically her just going through having to deal with this really bad boss, and whenever she gets mad, she does, like, I think it's either heavy metal or screamo. I don't know what you would classify it as. And she goes to this karaoke place every night to let it out. And eventually two people who are above her in the same company find out, but then it also finds out that they like doing karaoke. It's really good. It's better than what I'm sounding like I'm describing it as, but it's just a comedy show, kind of.
Okay. Where does it take place in Japan?
I'm pretty sure that it takes place in Japan, because also season 2 is really about the whole how parents, especially like in Japan, force marriage on their kids,
right?
With like arranged marriage and stuff, and that's basically what the second season is focused around.
Okay. Yeah, that's been floating around in my recommendeds for a while, and I don't know. One day I'll probably take the plunge.
I mean, it's not that long either. I think that's what's good about it. Like, something whereas BoJack would take you the entire day to watch an entire season. This one, it only took us, I think, like 3 hours to finish season 2.
Oh, wow.
It's not super, super long. I mean, that or time was going by really fast, but it really didn't take that long. It must have been like at least 3 hours. That's it. So season 1, I think, was a little bit longer, but not by much. So.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I'll check that out sometime. Monsters, what did you watch?
I also watched the first 2 episodes of Amphibia. It was, it had really cool vibes to it. There's like an underlying story that's kind of building within these first 2 episodes, and I'm really curious to see where it leads.
Is it a mystery element? See, I was supposed to watch Amphibia.
Yes.
I didn't. I forgot.
The second episode ends on like a real huge cliffhanger, and I'm assuming Disney's trying to be like, hey guys, look, we have another lore heavy show since Star just ended, kind of a thing. But I'm glad though, because it does really seem like it's ramping up to be a very lore heavy, mystery centered show, and I'm super excited for it.
Nice. Yeah, I'll probably check it out and maybe talk about it next week. But yeah, I don't know. It looked really good, and I love Gravity Falls. And it kind of looks a little Gravity Fallsy just from the trailer. Is that a fair assessment? Did either of you watch Gravity Falls?
I haven't seen Gravity Falls, and everybody yells at me every single time. I keep meaning to watch it, but I just don't. I can never find the time to like sit down.
Honestly,
and binge it.
I can see some parallels, just tonally.
Mm-hmm. And that's fine. That's total. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Gravity Falls is great. Like, having a show that kind of has a similar thing going on does not mean that it's necessarily a rehash or bad or anything. Like, and if you're gonna take inspiration, or if you're gonna have some things in common, I'd rather have more in common with that than, I don't know, Problem Solvers or just some random show, Planet Sheensies.
Well, just to give you like an idea of what it is, like, I'm not gonna spoil anything for you, but this is basically just what was in the trailer for it. Essentially, like, this human girl gets transported to this world of frogs because she stole a box from a thrift shop, and she opened it up, and she got pulled into the box, or the box transported her there. And that's basically how she gets there and how the show starts. You don't know anything other than that. You just know that she opened a box and she ended up in this frog world. And the frogs don't know what she is. They think that she's a monster. So that's basically how the show starts out, and it goes from there. And then the episode 2 ends in a place that I personally was not expecting.
Yeah.
So, and it caught me off surprise, but in a really, really good way. Like, this show is not fooling around. Like, second episode, it's already on to the lore track already. So it already knows what it wants to be.
And these are 11-minute episodes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So...
Yeah, it's on YouTube if you guys want to watch it.
The first 2 episodes are uploaded on Disney's official YouTube channel.
Which, I mentioned this on Twitter, but I love that networks have been doing this, where it's just, yeah, dude, like, put the first episode for free on YouTube in a place where, like, tons of people are going to see it. Why not? What does that harm? Like, your first episode's more marketing than anything else, really.
Exactly.
Like,
that's what, like, Cartoon Network did that with Mau Mau. Speaking of Mau Mau, that was also really good.
Yeah.
But yeah.
With Amphibia, like, the amphibians themselves are really cool.
Yeah.
And also, apparently the show has, like, a lot of, influence from, like, Thailand, because the show's creator spent his summers during his childhood in Thailand. And I can see some of it already, even though the show's only 2 episodes in. But either way, that's also cool, because it's got some elements of that culture in there.
Yeah.
That's an interesting source of inspiration you don't see a ton of in Western animation.
Yeah, I know Disney Channel actually posted a video about that too. I haven't gotten around to watching it yet, but when I looked up Amphibia to watch the episodes, it said the culture of Thailand, like, right in the video title.
The title.
Yeah, for the title. Yeah. It was right beneath, like, the actual episode. I was meaning to watch that, but I ran out of time. So it'll be interesting to see, like, if it was, like, an interview and if he goes into how, like, elements are inspired from it. It'll be really nice to see.
Yeah, and also, if you recognize the voice of the main character, it's Brenda Song, who's half Thai.
Also half Disney Channel at this point.
Yeah, she was London Tipton on Zack and Cody.
Also Wendy Wu,
Homecoming Warrior. Yep. and the host of Pass the Plate.
What?
You never saw Pass the Plate?
No.
No, what are you talking about?
Oh, they were these things that aired in between shows where she talked about, like, diverse food and that sort of stuff.
Cool.
They were cool. So yeah, cool show. Check it out. I watched The Chef Show on Netflix. It's basically kind of a spin-off of the movie Chef. I don't know if you've seen it. It came out in, like, 2014.
Hello, children.
not that Chef. It was directed by and it stars Jon Favreau, and it's basically about this dude who's, like, a well-regarded chef, and then he feels like he's, like, wrapped up in this pretentious world, so he just goes back to simpler times and he gets a food truck, and he does, like, a road trip across the country.
And it's fictional, or is this what Jon Favreau is doing with his MCU money?
The Netflix series is basically it's like a cooking show, so there's not really any fictional elements to it. It's basically just him and a chef, and they explore different types of dishes. There's an episode specifically where they recreate dishes from the movie, which is the one that I saw. And it's really cool. I mean, I'm not much of a foodie. I don't watch a lot of Food Network-y type shows. And this has some really cool art direction in it. But it's really entertaining, and because, I look up to Jon Favreau. He's a really talented film director and
The Jungle Book
actor. Yeah, The Jungle Book. Yeah. Also Iron Man movies and that sort of stuff.
No, just The Jungle Book. That's the most important.
Just The Jungle Book.
But yeah, that's also on Netflix, and it's a cool show. And then I guess now we can move on to all that. The reboot.
Let's teach Lea about what all that is, I guess.
Oh boy.
It's a kids sketch comedy show on Nickelodeon.
Oh no.
Lea, it's based on a kids sketch comedy show that ran from, like,
95 to 05.
Yeah, like, it was on for 10 years, and it was like an institution on Nickelodeon. Essentially, it can be boiled down to SNL for kids.
Right.
That's essentially what it is. I'm amazed that you've just never heard of this.
Yeah, I literally have never heard of this ever. This is
my
like first
Good
time.
Burger?
Yeah, Good Burger movie.
Oh, okay. I know of Good Burger.
Okay. Have you heard of the movie? Have you heard of the show Kenan and Kel?
No.
Oh.
Have you heard of the Amanda Show?
Yes.
Okay, the Amanda Show was essentially a spiritual successor. Same sort of stuff. Amanda Show was funnier.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Same sort of like sketch comedy, also like extra scenes of like quote unquote behind the scenes, like sketches that were about making the show essentially.
Right.
Very similar stuff. Anyway, here it is 20 years later, or what, 15 years later? Yeah, 15 years later after the show ended, and they decided to bring it back, baby.
Yay.
I feel like that's everybody's solution to everything, is just to bring stuff back instead of making new stuff.
At Brian Robbins.
It's Brian Robbins' solutions.
Well, the crazy thing is, too,
it's a bad solution.
Now that Brian Robbins is the show's CEO, it's interesting. Or not the show's CEO. Now that Brian Robbins is,
what do you do on this show? I CEO it.
Now that Brian Robbins is Nickelodeon CEO, it's funny because he's credited as a creator on the original because he was a producer working on it back in the 90s. So it's kind of cool how things have come full circle, and now he's in charge of the whole network.
I don't think it's cool. I don't like him. Not after.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's not cool. It's just kind of cool how things worked out that way.
Yeah, and then one of the other
Yeah.
people who was very influential in making it happen is now like exercise from Nickelodeon.
Yep.
Dan Schneider.
Yep.
Okay, but to actually talk about it, it's the thing that struck me and the thing that kind of like bothered me the most. Like the old cast members are there in this episode, but as far as I can tell, or like I can't tell whether they're going to be in the show going forward or how much of an influence, because for some reason this episode felt the need to like be meta and like make it like, well, Lori Beth's going to pass on the role of Vital Information to someone else, even though someone else already did Vital Information after Lori Beth left all that originally.
My boy JJ.
Yes, JJ Abrams. No, a little JJ. But yeah, no, like they did that. They had the opening skit is the dumbest thing because it's a behind the scenes skit, and they got the guy that I assume that's the same guy, Kevin or whoever it is, that was like the 5 minutes everyone. That guy.
Yeah.
I think he's also a producer on the show. But
Right.
they were doing that, and the bit was that the new cast didn't know how to be funny, and so they needed the old cast to show them how to do things like a spit take. And it's the weirdest thing because the first, like, our big introduction to the new cast was them singing this awful I'm So Funny song, and now their introduction in show is them being really bad at being funny. So it's like,
no.
I'm getting conflicting messages. Are they supposed to be funny or not?
Yeah.
No, but it's like it's the same problem both ways. You don't tell people that you're funny, and then at the same time, if you want to convince me you're funny, you don't do a skit where you don't know how to do basic comedy things. That's a weird way to introduce these characters, is it not?
Right. No, it was really weird.
I'll say that I laughed at Kel's physical comedy. Made me laugh.
I didn't laugh at anything. Like, well, just quickly to mention, yeah, like none of the original cast, even though they were in the episode, they weren't in the opening credits where they brought back the original theme song, by the way. They weren't in that sequence. So if they're not in that permanent sequence, I don't know if they'll permanently be in the show. But yeah, they brought back Good Burger with a sketch that had Kel in it and the Jonas Brothers, and I didn't find any of it funny. The joke that probably made me the most cringed is when
The most cringed.
I think Kel said something along the lines of like, good thing your last name isn't Poopy, because then you'd be called the Poopy Brothers. After like Nick, Kevin,
What?
and Joe list off their names and say that they're the Jonas Brothers.
Oh.
It's just lots of OMG, he said poop. That's so random and funny.
Well, there's also the celebrity thing, and is it...
Oh, the talent show.
Okay,
Yeah.
is it different now because celebrities... Well, see, I don't know if I can... As an adult, I'm more aware of celebrity culture and like the celebrities that exist out there. But I don't know if that's just because I've gotten older or if it's because of things like Twitter and Reddit that like, you know, all social medias are just like encompassed by this news of celebrity did this or celebrity is going to be in this. Like, I don't know if I was the age I am like in the 90s, like I would feel the same way. But it's like now it's just kind of like, I don't know. The celebrity parodies just don't. They don't do anything.
Oh,
for
they're
me.
really bad.
Like, is it?
Yeah.
I mean,
there's like there's a girl that does Beyonce where she basically is sassy and keeps saying that her name is Beyonce.
yeah, I don't know anything about Beyonce. I mean, was that a good parody of Beyonce?
No.
Okay.
I mean, she's like stereotypically fierce, but like no, like I think Maya Rudolph on SNL does a much better impression.
Oh yeah, that's right. And then Ariana Grande is parodied, which is
She
just
keeps going, yes.
that's so weird. I mean,
and then Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
right? I would have made fun of the fact that she was on Nickelodeon. Like, what was the joke they went for? That she says weird things? Does she do that?
Well, she kept saying the same thing over and over again.
Oh,
so
because it was like, it was like, you're wild, you're fierce, you're amazing, I love you, do some more of it. Like, she said something like that. I don't know what.
I think they were trying to go for like that Yas Queen type of thing. I don't know. And then there's a kid doing Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of got to laugh at the muscle suit. Like, I didn't.
Well, it looks really bad.
That's the idea. I think that was a part of it.
Okay.
I think. I don't know, but that made me chuckle.
And then they've got a dude who's Nick Cannon, who I don't think did a terribly bad job.
No.
Like, he did decent for what it was.
He seemed to have like a lot of personality and a lot of energy that I didn't necessarily see in a lot of the other kid actors.
Right. And then so they had like 3 rounds of celebrities going up in costumes and performing a dance. So like at first there was a dude wearing a costume where his head was like an apple. And he said like, I am the Apple Man and my dance is called the toothbrush. And then he did like a dance not too dissimilar from the floss. And then the judges like said whatever they had to say, and then he took off his mask and he was a kid doing an Adam Sandler impression.
Oh yeah, that was abysmal.
Yeah, it wasn't good. And then the second one was Billy Ray Cyrus, which I don't know if kids know who Billy Ray Cyrus is except for Old Town Road.
That was the joke. The joke was that no one knew who he was. That was the idea.
Yeah. Well, also, they had a girl playing him too.
I don't think it was a good joke. Because like of all the weird like has-beens, I guess they picked him because kids would know when they say, "Oh, Miley Cyrus's dad." But
right. Well, and the thing is, like, you have to give child actors leeway in some scenarios, but like I don't think any of them really had the cadence of any of the people they were impersonating. They just kind of dressed up like them and said like 1 or 2 lines that are boiled down to their most simple stereotype.
I mean, it is the first episode. You're right. I don't know. I did not like this, but there were a few amusing things I got out of it, and I don't know. I don't know. I'd be curious to see what a younger audience would think of this, because I don't think that it's so bad or so weird or wrong that like it can't be enjoyed. I think it could just be the age thing.
Well, it's actually kind of funny because I remember the first episode of So Random, which was a Disney sketch show that was on about 10 years ago. And I think one of, if not the first sketch in the first episode, was Celebrity Wheel of Fortune.
Is that like a take on Celebrity Jeopardy from SNL?
Yeah, kind of. So they had like a dude who was Pat Sajak, and then they had 3 celebrities. They had Willow Smith, who was popular at the time because she did that "I Whip My Hair Back and Forth" song. Taylor Swift, and then Fred.
Oh God.
So
that sounds worse.
But
That sounds
actually
worse
kind of funny though.
Really?
Like, yeah, because Willow Smith keeps whipping her hair, and there's a part at the end where her weave gets caught in the wheel, and then it spins around, and she loses her hair.
Okay.
So yeah, some of it. I wouldn't say it's too funny, but I think it was a lot better than this. But back on all of that, just some of the sketches were not very funny. There was another one where it was Marie Kondo, except they like put a spin on her name. I don't remember what it was. I think it was Marie Kiddo, where there's a girl impersonating that Marie Kondo lady who's like promoting organization and cleanliness and everything, except she does the opposite and she just destroys everything. And it's basically just the entire sketch is her mercilessly like destroying the items of the person who wants to clean out their stuff. So like she puts like a jackhammer into her couch and she like throws a lamp. It wasn't funny.
I would say that the sketches from what I've seen have also not seemed to be really original. Like from what I remember of all that, things like Repairman, Man, like that's not strictly based on anything, right? That's just wouldn't it be funny to have a skit where Kel comes in dressed like this old janitor-looking guy, no, wait. Yeah, no, Kel comes... I'm confusing that with his coach character. But Kel comes in, and he just, like, wrecks everything and while trying to fix it. Like, that's more original than trying to parody something specific, I guess. I from the vibe of this, I got the feeling that they wanted to parody. Well, Good Burger, not a parody of anything. It's a parody of fast food workers, I guess, but not a parody of like a movie.
No,
that's the thing. I mean, the first skit was a parody of these celebrity judge shows, obviously, like So You Think You Can Dance or whatever, or American Idol even. The other skits were Good Burger, which, I mean, it's not but it's based on the Good Burger skit.
Yeah.
And then what else was there? There was skit.
Marie Kondo,
right,
or Marie Kiddo. There was the Lori Beth Denberg one.
Right, which is also, Vital Information is not based on anything, I don't believe. It's just a funny idea.
I mean, it's kind of like a Weekend Update almost, but...
But Weekend Update's about the news. Vital Information is just random facts.
Right.
I mean, I guess presentation-wise it's similar, but I wouldn't say it was based on that. But anyway.
That's just a loose connection.
Yeah.
There was that. There was Canceled, that kid where he talked about the letter K.
Oh. I didn't.
That was right before the musical.
I didn't make it that far in the episode.
Yeah. And then the Jonas Brothers performed.
Which I always found I always found the music performances to be so boring.
I've made it clear time and time again. Like, I'm not a really big fan of the original. And yeah, this didn't impress me. I didn't find it funny.
Okay.
Granted, I also have I don't know. I like to think I have a pretty high bar for comedy. Sometimes I don't because I watch Family Guy.
Yeah.
But
yeah, no, I agree with you for the most part. I think I'm maybe a little more positive on it. I still overall I didn't enjoy this, and I don't think that they didn't come out the gate with something amazing. But I think, given that it's a first episode and trying to be fair to it, I would say that this could have been a lot worse. And I think there are things that, maybe if they kind of just ditch the original cast, they'll have more time to flesh out, like, more original skits. Like,
I feel like they're really gonna hone in on, like, the whole, like, parody thing, where they just, like, do really bad impersonations of celebrities, almost in, like, like, back in the old YouTube days, where you'd find, like, a lot of really bad YouTube impersonations.
like Barely Political.
Or celebrity impersonations, yeah. So...
Yeah, no, so, I mean, I
because that's another thing, too, that we didn't bring up, is that Nickelodeon's been uploading sketches from the show to their YouTube channel, but they put the actual celebrity names in the titles. So, like, they uploaded one a few days ago called Bed Bath and Beyonce. Yeah, except they say, like, with Beyonce, and with that I'm So Funny video, they say with Ariana Grande and with Beyonce.
Wow.
So
that's right. That
really
is such terrible clickbaitiness.
Because, it's impersonations of them. It's not actually Ariana Grande.
Right. If I do an impersonation of a character on the recast, I'm not going to put that character's name in the title. Yeah, that's...
Yeah, recast 40, The Jungle Book, featuring Christopher Walken.
Yeah. Ooby-doo.
I want to be like you.
No, it's you...
His voice is fading, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's a long discussion on all that. Is it gonna be the savior of Nickelodeon? I mean, honestly, at this point, the unboxing show and the substitute have both been doing really well for Nick ratings-wise, but to be fair, really well for Nick ratings-wise is, like, not great these days.
I'll also bring up, I didn't watch this, but I was talking to somebody who was watching this while I was talking to them. The second episode of The Substitute was airing, the one with Lea C. And apparently, I don't remember the name of it exactly, but they gave, like, the show a different subtitle. He thought that it was like a new episode or some sort of, like, behind the scenes thing. But it was called, like, The Substitute and then some sort of subtitle. And it was basically like a rerun of that episode, except they had, like, facts on screen during it.
Right. They said they were going to do that for the first episode, like with the behind-the-scenes thing.
Right.
What's weird? I don't know. Yeah. I feel, from what I've seen thus far, this is the clickbait era of Nickelodeon. Like, that seems to be what's going for. Because something like a prank show is not... I don't know. I feel like it's not going to get what it gets, like the viewership, because of actual merit of the show. It gets it because They got a celebrity that kids care about attached. They got, like 1 or 2 moments that they can advertise on YouTube or whatever that might actually be like interesting or funny, but then the rest of the 22 minutes is just filled with just boring tedium.
Netflix just ordered a kids prank show.
Oh God, why?
With Gaten Matarazzo from Stranger Things. So.
Oh, that's right, they did. Oh. All right.
Netflix, they greenlight everything.
Yeah, we'll see if that strategy pays off with the Disney Plus thing.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Okay. So I saw the Men in Black, the new one.
International.
Yeah, that's about all I watched this week.
I'll be honest, I didn't even know that there was a new one.
It wasn't advertised super well.
The trailer was before Endgame, I think.
Like, I wouldn't have gone otherwise, but I had a date, so, like, that's basically it. It's not... I mean... The movie, it's a dumb summer comedy movie. Some summer comedy fantasy movie. That's about it. Like...
Was it funny?
In places, yeah. I wouldn't say it's so funny you need to see it. It's just, like... It made me laugh in a few places. There's a character that's like a little CGI character that follows them on their adventure and spouts a bunch of one-liners, and a lot of them are kind of...
Oh yeah, Kumail.
Yeah, some of them are kind of like groan-worthy, but others are actually genuinely funny. He's kind of like the baby Groot, I guess.
The
but
baby
he
Groot.
can talk. So, yeah, I mean, don't expect much out of this movie. The movie's really cliche. It's a mole. It's got a mole hunt. Basically, there's a mole in the Men in Black, and it's exactly who you think it is. They're like, who could it be? Could it be Chris Hemsworth? Ooh. I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but you'd give this movie way too much credit if you think one of the protagonists is going to be the mole. So yeah, predictable, and I don't know. I mean, I went in with low expectations, and I had an okay time. Like, that's basically it. That's all. I mean, I'm happy that at least it branched away from, like, yes, it's a movie in a franchise that's been going on since the 90s, and it's a reboot or whatever, but, like, it did branch away from the Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones stuff. Like, it's not a sequel to that. It's not trying to cash in on that. It's like here's this weird setting where there's aliens and fantasy and this organization, and that's basically all it has in common with the other one. And they share, like, one actor. Okay. News time. What's going on with Sony Animation, Monsters?
Oh, there's a lot going on at Sony Animation.
Emoji Movie 2?
Unfortunately not.
I thought you were going to say unfortunately yes, and I was like, why haven't I heard about this?
Yeah, James Corden reprising his role as Meh. No, they announced like a whole new slate of things. The big one that's been catching the attention of a lot of people is they're reimagining the Boondocks.
Oh yeah,
Which,
I heard about that.
If you don't know, used to be on Adult Swim. And by the time the show ended, the original showrunner Aaron McGruder wasn't working on it anymore, but he's coming back and he's working on this. And you know, they bring up the fact that especially in today's political climate, the show, you know, has a lot to talk about. I'm not too familiar with the original, but
me neither.
I know that there's a lot of people that do like this show.
Yeah, it resonated with a lot of people.
Yeah, I've only seen a few episodes of it, but
It has very little to do with the newspaper comic strip, by the way.
Yeah. So, and by reimagining, I don't know if that means remake, reboot, revival,
recast,
yeah. So there's that. They're making an anthology series based on a dark horse graphic novel by Joel Rose and Anthony Bourdain called Hungry Ghosts, which is culinary-inspired ghost stories.
That's interesting.
I don't know what that means. Yeah.
They're going to use various forms of animation to tell the stories, though. That's cool.
That'll be cool.
Sounds like it might be something similar to, what was it, Love, Death, and Robots?
Yeah, that's an anthology.
Yeah, anthology, different kinds of animation, yeah.
Right. So there's another show called Super Bago, or Super Bago. It's from Stupid Buddy Studios, who works on Robot Chicken. So this is a claymation series. It was supposed to be a feature at one point, but now it's going to be a series, and it's a half-hour comedy about two dim-witted animated heroes traveling in a real Winnebago across the actual United States of America, hoping to become real superheroes.
oh boy.
So So that's the thing. And then also Gendy Tartakovsky, my dad, he's not actually my dad, but like my animation idol.
He could
he's
be.
working on.
We don't know. Is that who you are, Monsters? Are you little Horatio Tartakovsky?
A little Horatio Tartakovsky. No, but I love Gendy Tartakovsky, and he's working on 2 new projects, which both of them are targeted towards a more adult audience, which is interesting because over at Sony he's been working on the Hotel Transylvania movies, which are obviously more family oriented. So he's doing something called Black Knight. It's a feature film that's about martial arts and that sort of stuff. And it explicitly won't be for kids.
Woo!
So yeah, woo! So that means it's for me.
Yeah, we aren't those.
And obviously, we know Gendy worked on Samurai Jack, so maybe this will share some commonalities with that. Maybe
the characters will say omelette du fromage.
Maybe they will. And if they do, I will see this movie 20 times.
Make a clickbait YouTube video about it.
Yeah. And then he's also working on another movie. It's an R-rated project called Fixed. And it's about an average dog who falls in love with the show dog next door and learns he's going to get neutered the next morning.
Oh, no.
We've all been there.
So, yeah.
Hi. What?
So this will be interesting. I don't know if I've seen Gendy work on something like this before.
Yeah, because Gendy, outside of Dexter's Lab, went for more serious for a while.
More serious, action-oriented stuff, like, Star Wars, the Star Wars Clone Wars, Symbionic Titan, Samurai Jack.
The Popeye trailer.
Yeah.
That's action-oriented.
I really wish that movie happened, because that trailer was amazing.
It could... Dude, in the climate that we're in today, where everything is like a reboot or a remake, there's no way that project won't eventually get greenlit. It's just a matter of will Gendy still be attached to it.
Well, it was also a part of that Sony email scandal, so I don't know if that has anything to do with whether it comes to fruition or not.
But someday it will. No doubt.
Yeah,
There'll be another animated Popeye film. 100%. Or an animated Popeye film. Anyway, also Jackie Chan has some sort of animated family project with...
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Wish Dragon. And the picture they have looks really neat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean...
It'll be released in 2020.
This could be Sony Pictures Animation. Like Sony... It's got this weird reputation because it had the Emoji Movie, but then it had Spider-Verse. So as of right now, it's just got a lot of potential to be really good or really bad. And it sounds like they're taking animation a little more seriously, and they're trying to branch out to do things that aren't just like directly aimed at kids, even stuff that's more just family rather than straight kids.
Right.
And that's cool, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully this stuff turns out good.
Yeah. I don't know. Super Bago doesn't seem very like a good idea to me, personally. 2 dumb protagonists going across the U.S. And I mean, like, Robot Chicken's kind of funny, but, like, only in small doses.
Well, that show is entirely cutaways.
Right.
Like, it's not a plot-driven show.
Well, so what you're saying, have we seen a plot-driven show from these people?
Well, they did one. It was like a Transformers parody.
No.
I don't remember what it was called, but...
That's not a good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no.
There's already enough regular Transformers things. We don't need parody shows. All right. Lea.
Yes.
Steven.
Oh boy.
Would you like to regale us with what's going on with Steven Universe? Because I saw the tweets. I didn't really want to look into it. I wanted to kind of save it for the cast. I know. So we got more information on the Steven Universe movie, and
yeah,
take it away.
I mean, so it's pretty minuscule news, and I like the surface, but essentially, Cartoon Network posted like this really, really short video, essentially just announcing like, hey, the Steven Universe movie is still a thing, and it's still coming, and also it's a musical. And then they included some names of the people who are going to be working on it. Amy Mann is one of them, which for those of you who don't know is Opal's voice actress. So everyone was like super excited because we're just like, oh my gosh, why do we have Opal as one of the featured voices? So we're all sitting here like, Opal for Opal, because that's like the thing that we came up with it. Because it's just like, poor Opal literally has not been in the show for the longest time. Well, I mean, okay,
Yeah.
the last time she showed up was in Together Alone, but, like, she had no speaking role. She was there and then she was gone. So, like...
When one of her most prominent appearances is as a picture in Know Your Fusion, that's a bad sign.
Yes. So, we're all excited because Amy Mann was, like, one of the top front and center names on the Cartoon Network video. So that means that we think she has a larger part to play than just, like, one song, because since it's a musical, the names that they featured were the people who helped with the music. So we're thinking that means that Opal gets a song, because why else would Amy Mann be on there?
Right.
Because she's actually a singer. So most of the voice cast on Steven Universe are singers or Broadway stars. So that's why we're thinking, oh, well, they're probably going to be trying to utilize everybody on there who is a singer who hasn't really gotten like a song yet, because I know Jennifer Paz was also on the list, which is Lapis's voice actress, and she's only had one song.
Distant Shore.
Yeah, which Distant Shore was a really good song, but the problem with that was it was immediately followed up by a single Pale Rose, so people weren't really paying attention to it.
It's also a really short song, unfortunately.
It is, which it sucks because it's such a good song. And then the other person that was announced to be in it and be making music for it is Chance the Rapper.
What are the chances of that?
Listen. That was awful.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll be honest, I have never heard anything from him. I am not a rap fan. I don't like rap, so I wouldn't know, like, if he's good at what he does. But I'm assuming if Rebecca...
He's critically acclaimed.
Oh, is he?
Well, it's better.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad it's him rather than, like... I also don't know anything about him, but since I don't know anything about him, at least I don't specifically dislike him. Like...
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a pretty good reputation.
I mean, like, my thing is I think Rebecca Sugar has an ear for music, so if she chose him specifically, I'm sure that there was probably a reason.
I mean, it would have been cool if Childish Gambino was on there. Just saying.
Oh my god.
No, how about Lil Yachty, like he was in the Teen Titans Go movie?
Oh my god. Is he down with the gems?
I know. And then there was also Gallant is going to be in there too, which I also don't know anything about them, but that was another one that was introduced alongside all of the voice actresses of the Diamonds are going to be there. So you have Patti LuPone and you have Christine Ebersole, and I forget who Blue Diamond's voice actress is.
Lisa Hannigan.
Yes, thank you.
What about Rose?
I believe Susan Egan is in there. They do have a whole performance list. Actually, I don't think Susan Egan is in there.
Yeah, she's not on the list.
That's interesting. Not all the Diamonds.
Well, you know,
got him.
One of them's dead, but anyways.
Well, yeah, but okay. Has that stopped her from appearing in the show before?
No, but, like, here's the thing. When I was at MomoCon, they had the voice actors panels, and I probably should have actually mentioned this, but Cartoon Network was there, and they were advertising the movie.
Really?
Yes,
that's awesome.
Yes. So basically, like, at the end, they had 2 Steven Universe voice actors panels that were modded by Mackenzie Atwood, who does the Steven Universe podcast. And at the very end of this, these panels, a Cartoon Network employee was waiting at the end of the entrance for the panel room and was handing out pins to tease the movie. And then there was also a Snapchat filter that was only available in, like, one part of the convention center that had, like, the Steven Universe movie thing on it. So they were advertising there, so I think they're trying to hint that we have stuff coming up for SDCC because it's next month. So it's just like, and that was the thing I meant. This is what led up to this. Rose's voice actress was there.
Oh.
I'm blanking on
Susan
her name
Egan.
at the moment. Susan Egan. There we go. Yeah, I was going to say, I knew what her name was, but I was blanking.
Meg from
Susan
Hercules.
Egan was there. Yes. And one of the official questions asked before they opened it up for a Q&A was, how excited are you for the Steven Universe movie? And Susan Egan was, like, going on about how she was so excited for it. So I'm assuming that means she was recording lines for it, because why else would she be answering that? You know?
That's interesting.
The only thing... like, the thing is like, they may not have had her in the voice actor role thing, because they also don't have Amy Mann in there as Opal either. She's not listed as Opal, she's just listed as having done music for it. So, but why else would she be in there? You know what I mean? So I feel like there's a bunch of people that aren't listed, just like Chance the Rapper. I'm assuming he voices a character. Like, why else would he be in there?
What strikes me as interesting about this list that they released is that it's a lot of male names. I'm not making some statement. I'm just saying that the cast of Steven Universe is predominantly female, meaning these are either going to be new characters, possibly Steven Fusion, or they collaborated to make the music. That doesn't necessarily mean right, because it says original songs by Rebecca Sugar in collaboration with, like, Chance the Rapper could be voicing someone, could be just helping with the music, like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like,
it could be non-diegetic sound.
Like, I'm thinking it might be Fusion, just based on the fact that Steven and Pearl's Fusion, Rainbow Quartz 2.0, has a male voice actor. So let's say, like, they experimented with Fusion between, like,
Steven and the Diamonds.
Well, I was thinking more so Steven and Peridot, but go off, I guess.
Well, no, I mean, I'm not saying it's like, I'm just saying, like, I don't know.
No, I was joking. But I think, like, maybe it would make sense, like, if it was, like, Peridot and Steven or something. Like, I don't know what Chance sounds like, I'll be completely honest. I still haven't listened to any of his stuff even after the announcement.
His stuff is definitely low-key. He's not, like, he doesn't do gangster rap. I mean, he's talked about, like, drugs and that sort of stuff before, but he's not, he's not, like, his stuff is really low-key. He has, like, a focus on, like, soul, and he does a lot of singing in his raps, and he's got a lot of really jazzy instrumentals. So yeah, he's pretty well regarded. Yeah.
Okay, then that makes sense then, because I couldn't, to be honest with you, Rebecca doesn't really strike me as the rap type of person, to be honest. Like, her music style is, like, super soft.
The only thing I'm thinking is Bad Little Boy from Adventure Time, which had Childish Gambino. And I guess was written by Rebecca Sugar. She wrote the first one. I don't see why she wouldn't have wrote that one, but that's the only association I could think of. If it's not collaboration, it has to be Fusion, because, like, if they're gonna introduce new characters, they're gonna be gems. They're not just gonna be like, here's Mr. Smiley, Mr. Smiley's other friend, Mr. Blankface.
But yeah, the other interesting thing about this was this kind of confirms the timeline that it's on, because since Christine Ebersole is in it, it means White Diamond is in it. So why would they make a movie with White Diamond in it if she hadn't been introduced in the canon yet?
Right, you know right, yeah.
So this means that this movie is happening post Change Your Mind. So
definitely, I was a proponent of saying that it wasn't, but, like, after Change Your Mind, it's gotta be.
It has to be. Why else would Christine Ebersole be in it? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that they would make a movie taking place before Change Your Mind and then be like, oh yeah, by the way, Steven already met White Diamond before. You know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't make sense.
Unless, what if the movie doesn't take place from Steven's perspective?
Ooh, no, it will.
No, please. It's a movie.
Like, why would they vary
because
from
it's
the
a
norm
movie.
With the movie?
Movies don't do that. It's bad.
Well, the thing is, too, with the movie, people have been questioning how soon the end of the show is going to be, and whether or not the movie was going to mark the end of the show or not.
That was another piece of news, wasn't it?
Yeah, so Steven Universe Season 6 was technically also confirmed.
Well, Cartoon Network said something weird, right? Didn't they tweet something? Wasn't there, like, an article that was like, the movie is not the end for Steven Universe?
Yeah.
Which is a weird way to say that. Yeah.
Like, to be honest with you, like, I personally didn't read it because I already knew that the show was going to continue. But, like, it was essentially, the article title was basically just, oh, well, the movie doesn't mark the end of Steven Universe. Like, they didn't say that there was a season 6.
Right.
I know that there's a season 6, but they didn't say that there was a season 6. They just said...
Here's what the Polygon article title, and I mean, this could just be editorializing, but the interesting... Oh, no, it says, the Steven Universe does not mark the end of the franchise. That's more interesting than just saying Steven Universe isn't over.
Yeah.
Because franchise means... Well, franchise typically refers to something that's more than just one TV show.
That means,
let's
a Rock Noddle spinoff.
Planet Peridot.
Here.
Planet Peridot.
Oh, please, no. But let's be honest here. You really think that Cartoon Network wants to let go of Steven Universe?
No, I'm thinking something a little different. Like, you know how Nickelodeon...
Well, no. Well, basically what I'm saying is, do you really think that they want to let go of this title just because the main story is going to be over?
I mean, Disney did that with Gravity Falls.
What?
Like, I'm sure because of how popular Gravity Falls was, I'm sure Disney wanted the show to continue, but they ultimately respected Alex Hirsch's wishes in ending the show after 2 seasons.
Yeah, but that's not what Lea's saying. Lea's saying that would they continue the show without Steven's branding?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like maybe make like a spin-off or something.
Well, you know, spin-offs can happen in tandem with the original show now. It doesn't need to be any time, apparently.
Because if you think about it, I was actually having a conversation with Kevin the other day. Like, what if they decided they wanted to do a spin-off that was, like, pre-war, just to show, like, what Homeworld was like, because you don't really see a lot of that in show.
Right.
And I think, like, that would give context to, like, Rose's relationship with everybody, because we don't really see her at all. And to be honest with you, the show's got to be ending with either season 6 or season 7. I can't see it going past that with the main story at this point. And it's just like the only way I could see them delving more into it was if they had like a spin-off based on like the war, or if they had a spin-off based on the war, which I think would be interesting in of itself, because there's more like gem culture and stuff, but then there's also what?
Here's the thing. Okay, I think that what you're describing could be a super cool TV show.
I don't think they're gonna do it.
That's 100. If they were to do a spin-off and they like, and it wasn't about like, I don't know, like Peridot or Lapis or something, like, I'm pretty sure what they would do is just, like, pick a part of the world, of the Steven Universe world, have a main character kid, and that kid has some, like, new one of the gems. There's somehow some other gem just hanging out somewhere, not a crystal gem, you know, and it's just that low-key slice-of-life adventures with a gem that doesn't have anything to do with the war, anything to do with the lore. That rhymed. It's just weird slice-of-life adventures in the same universe, technically. That's what I feel like they would do. I could
see that happening.
That's not what I'd want, but I feel like...
Well, if you think about it, too, there's all those uncorrupted gems now. You mean to tell me that all of them are going to become crystal gems? I doubt
They're
it.
all going to live at the barn, Lea.
The barn is gone. Do you not remember?
They're just going to live in the empty space. That's all. That's it. That's where they're allowed to live. They're all going to be like, hey, Steven, can we live with you? And Steven's going to be like, we can't afford to pay all your voice actors. Go off to the barn.
Well, do you know what else they could do, too? And I doubt very much that they're going to do this, but they could just age Steven up and have, like, him and Connie have, like, a kid or something, and then the adventure follows their kid or something. Like, they have little baby Stevani.
I just don't feel like Steven Universe is the type of show that would do... Like... Obviously, Steven Universe cares about lore and creating this, but I feel like, I don't know, I feel like they had their lore and they had their story, and, like, I feel like what we got on the war is about as much as they want to reveal about the war. I think that, I don't know, I could be totally wrong. I don't know, it's interesting. What I was going to suggest earlier was that, like, Nickelodeon's been doing this weird thing where they've been, like, shipping off shows and TV movies and stuff to Netflix. I almost wonder if this, like, weird, almost kind of season 6 announcement that's not one, and all these rumors and all this talk of, yes, there is going to be something after the movie. I wonder if it could be that the big secret is that it's not going to be on Cartoon Network. That Cartoon Network, like, is still producing the show, but they're putting it on, like, Netflix or something. Like, they're you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
It might be, because, I mean, Cartoon Network already has that chronic thing of releasing Steven Universe in bomb format. So it would already make sense, like, if they were just like, okay, well, we're going to do bomb format anyways, we might as well put it on Netflix, you know what I mean?
Right. They release it early on their own website half the time anyway, like... Yeah. So, because I wonder what do they gain from not just saying, like, yep, right after the movie, we're going to get season 6. Like, why wouldn't they just be gung-ho about it? Unless there was some... I mean, we know why Nickelodeon wasn't so gung-ho about the TV movies, why they kept their lips shut, is because there was some weird negotiations with Netflix.
I mean, that could be the reason why, because, like, to be honest, I really don't understand why they just haven't announced season 6 at this point, because it's, like, they haven't been announcing it since we knew that season 5 was on its way out, and that was a long time ago, so it's just, like, I don't know. It seems really weird to me. Cartoon Network's always been weird with news on this show. I mean, I could see I could see if they were trying to negotiate something with Netflix, just because we had that Invader Zim and Rocco thing that just happened, like you mentioned.
Plus, don't forget, I mean, I'm sure both Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network, or I mean, their parent companies anyway, are really bringing their wrists over, Disney Plus, like wanting to get in on the digital space somehow.
Right. Which it's weird, because doesn't that mean that technically if they tried to get on the Disney Plus space, I don't know. It just seems like a weird
Warner Bros. Is
thing.
making their own streaming service.
Right,
That's
but Cartoon
true.
Network, I mean, there's overlap between Cartoon Network and Warner, but if they're calling it Warner streaming service or whatever, well,
that's like they're not even like I don't think they're even referring to Cartoon Network as like a part of Turner now. They're like all branching it under like Warner Bros. Animation or whatever.
Warner Media or something.
Yeah.
They've sectioned it super weird.
Yeah. The only other thing I could think, I mean, and we know this about Steven Universe, is that every so often it is fine, like changing the status quo in a big way, like change your mind. So it could just be that they don't want to announce it because there is some more huge things that happen in the movie that are going to... Well, I think it's pretty obvious that whatever happens in the movie could color season 6.
Yeah.
Maybe it won't. I don't know. Maybe it'll be just more of a standalone... It's weird. It
is weird because usually with Cartoon Network movies, it doesn't tie into the actual story. It's just like a one-off, which is why I was super both confused and surprised when I saw all of the diamonds in there, because I was like, okay, well, first off, I didn't expect any of the diamonds to be in it. Second off, I wasn't sure if it was taking place after Change Your Mind. I didn't think it was, mainly because they haven't covered the Jasper issue and they haven't covered the corruption issue, which means that they're gonna have to at least mention it in this movie, because you can't just have Change Your Mind and then not mention any of them. You know what I mean?
All those loose ends that we just skimmed by at the end.
Yeah, so, I mean, that leads me to believe that maybe this movie is introducing the final antagonist of the show, which my main theory...
But would that be satisfying for... Sorry to cut you off. Would that be satisfying for a movie? You know what I mean? To introduce this antagonist, and then by the end of the movie, the antagonist... they had some small victory over it? Like, I don't know.
Sure. I'm not sure if they would have a small victory over it if it was leading into season 6, because you need you need
just
to
depression.
Have...
They lose.
I mean, listen, it wouldn't be the first time that happened with this show. But like my thing is, I don't know what else there is to do other than if there were some high up gems that didn't like the fact that Steven changed it, because if they're a higher up, of course they're being they're a benefactor. They're benefiting
by by the society.
So then it changes.
Structure.
Like, what if a gem, like their pearl, gets taken away or something? That's going to get them angry. So my theory is that it's a gem. It's a gem rebellion.
Oh,
group.
It's the other way rebellion.
Yep,
that would be
exactly. See that's what my theory is, and I'm thinking that that's what the enemy is going to be, on top of the diamonds, trying to figure out how to make like a society that's not a dictatorship. You know what I mean? So that's what my theory is, and that's what I think it's going to lead into with, like, season 6, and if there's more seasons onward for that. Like I said, I think that the furthest this show can go at this point is season 7. I don't think it's going past that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I think... I mean, I've made my thoughts known on Steven Universe, and I guess the thing is, I 100% agree, because I feel like there's only so far they can push a series from only Steven's perspective. Like, I've mentioned that that's a limiting factor of the show, in my opinion, but like not just from a realistic standpoint. It's just like the show cannot evolve beyond Steven. Like it just literally cannot if Steven has to be present for everything at all times.
Right.
So I think that's kind of what gets me thinking of maybe a spinoff or maybe something else, because if they want to explore any of the other possibilities, like they built this huge world of lore and then they can't do anything with it unless someone is telling a story to Steven, which is like, they can do that, but like they can't do that every episode or else it'd be weird.
Right, which is why I do think that it's extremely interesting that in that press release they said franchise, because it's just like, okay, you're not going to just say show. Like, it was an extremely interesting word choice, and I'm pretty sure it's intentional, because they know that, like, the channels like the Round Table and me are going to be like, franchise, you know what I mean? And then we're going to do like the advertising for them, which fair point on them. They're correct about that. I'm not going to say that they aren't. It's a good advertising move. If, people are talking about your show constantly, why not? You know what I mean? But
I mean, it is also possible that there's just a lot in talks. You know what I mean? Like, they don't want to limit themselves. I mean, it's possible that whatever comes after the movie is going to be like in a few years. Like it's possible that, I mean, I don't know.
yeah,
Steven Universe is very interesting to think about from not only just the show standpoint, but the production of it and just how weird.
It's super weird. It's also extremely frustrating because it's just like, okay, Cartoon Network, we know there's a season 6. Can you just say that there's a season 6? Like, please give us some news on that. I mean, they might at like SDCC or New York Comic-Con, but I really think this year is just going to be them showing the first trailer for the movie because it's coming in the fall, so it's like relatively soon-ish, I guess. Like
there's probably finished animation they can show, or at least getting close to.
I would assume that a lot of it is done because since it's coming this year in the fall and they're showing it next, well, they have a panel next month. I don't know if they're showing anything. They did say that there was news coming soon, so I'm not entirely sure why they wouldn't utilize SDCC because they have in the past. That's where they announced the movie last year, so it'd be the perfect place to show the first trailer to the movie. Although that being said, Cartoon Network is notorious with not releasing their stuff from SDCC until like 2 months later. So, unless
that's right.
Yeah, it's super annoying. So unless somebody films it, we're probably going to hear from hearsay, which is also extremely frustrating because it's just like, I can't analyze something I don't see.
Maybe someone on Instagram will tell us that it's going to come out tomorrow.
oh gosh. That happens so often.
We need to move on at this point. But
yeah.
Thank you, Lea. That was very insightful. And I always love talking about Steven Universe with you.
I know too much.
All right, so I have one more news update. And this is for those of you like me that like DVDs. And that's that Walmart has, in collaboration with Warner Bros., has re-released some really interesting Cartoon Network DVDs. So if any of you are fans of like Ed and Eddie or the Powerpuff Girls or Foster's Home, they've re-released the first seasons of those 3 shows, which is really interesting because the original Ed and Eddie season 1 has been out of print for a while. If you want the original, it's like $80 used. Same goes for the Powerpuff Girls Collector's season 1. It's super rare, and plus the complete series is also out of print. So if any of you are fans of those shows and want to own them on physical media, they're available now for pretty cheap at Walmart if you want to pick them up.
That's good to know. I know the Steven Universe movie is also going to DVD. They announced that in the press release, so that makes sense if they just did like all those deals all at once.
They should do Blu-ray.
They should.
But no, it's easier and cheaper to produce DVDs.
Yarp. Okay, we have a question of the week from very frequent collaborator, Christian Gokan. Thank you for your wonderful contributions each and every week. A bit unrelated to the recast, but what would you say are your best works, the magnum opus of you guys for content? And I believe it's just referring to YouTube videos that we've made, or I guess any other artistic endeavors.
Right.
I can give an answer if you guys need to think for a second. I think mine is the SpongeBob season 6 review. To be honest, it's like, I don't want to say I peaked there, but just the subject matter was, that season is so bad, and I was so invested in SpongeBob, and like leading up to it, like season 4 and 5 kind of got me a little hopeful that season 6 could be like okay, like I'd enjoy like a good chunk of it. And I mean, there are still standout episodes, so I was able to give like some positive reviews to stuff like Not Normal, and no Hat for Pat, which I was very positive on. Sandcastles in the Sand, yeah. So like, it's not like it was just like every episode was just like the worst thing ever, but there was like a really good chunk of episodes that I passionately disliked, and then like a few episodes that I really passionately liked, and then just a lot of interesting things to talk. I mean, Truth or Square, as much as I hate it, like, it's interesting to talk about. So yeah, like, I just feel like, and I feel like, I don't know what it was. I guess I had a lot of free time at that time, but I was able to, that was probably the last time that I really was able to take a long time after, like, finishing the main video to just add a bunch of, like, little touches. Like, with all the other seasons, I think I felt, like, pressured that it's been so long since the previous season review, I kind of got to get it out that I don't have time to put in these little things. Like, just that was a season that I bought a slide whistle to have a live action slide whistle gag. That was, I did an annotation for really, like, there's not any animosity. This is just me being trolly. I did an invisible annotation on the Splinter, the picture of the Splinter that led to Rebel Taxi's YouTube channel. Like, I mean, that's a post video thing, but I did that. The art also by, I think that was like the second or third season that Erin did my art, but, like, she did a really good job with a lot of the stuff, like the Splinter, which looked just crazy. Like, I don't know. I just feel like I poured a lot into that video, and I feel like it really paid off. Not that the season 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 videos are, like, bad or anything, but just like I said, I don't think I had the time to add the finishing touches. And also, after how bad season 6 was, having season 7, which was also very bad, it's like, it's hard to cover. It's hard to kind of do it again. Like, I feel like as SpongeBob repeated itself, I found myself repeating myself, and that's difficult, you know. Anyway, what about you guys? Monsters, I mean, would you say that your Drake and Josh video is?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I'm obviously most well known for my Planet Sheen video, but if there was...
No, you're most well known for being the amazing co-host on the recap.
Probably true. Yeah, if I had to pick one that I'm the most proud of, it probably would be the Drake and Josh one. In retrospect, I don't think any of my videos are perfect. I don't think anybody thinks that their stuff is perfect. There's a lot I would still change about that sort of stuff. But if there was one that I just think represents me the best, it'd probably be that one. I mean, there's other miscellaneous things I've worked on in the past. Like, I had, like, a really short series called Animation Contemplation, and I made some video essays last year that I really liked how they turned out. But yeah, probably the Drake and Josh video.
Got one, Lea?
I know, but okay. So it's funny because it's technically not Steven Universe related. Which is weird to say, but it's the autism representation in the media video that I did, like, a month ago. That's probably the video that I'm the most proud of at the moment. But if it was a Steven Universe video, it'd probably be the symbolism of Change Your Mind. Because that one, I kind of just went all ham out on the symbolism that happened in that episode, because there was a lot. And I didn't really notice how much I liked the video until I was rewatching it after I made it, and I was just like, oh, I was like, this is actually really good. And usually I don't feel that way about the videos that I'm making. I'm kind of neutral towards them. Like, I make sure that the editing is proper and everything, and I make sure that my sentences are flowing fine, but I'm not like, oh, this is, like, the best video I've ever made. Like, I never feel any that way about any of my content. But that one was just, like, kind of the one where once it was done and once I was watching the final thing, I was actually really happy with how it came out. So,
nice. Yeah, I guess I'd say if it wasn't one of my SpongeBob seasons, it might be my don't watch video. I don't know. I'm particularly proud of how I've always been interested in, like, debate and arguments and things like that, and I still find that argument to be just a really pathetic way to just kind of shut down conversation and arguments. And it's a non-argument. It's a weird, like, judgment call of gatekeeping and stay away from my thing unless you 100% love it at all times.
Yeah.
Right.
I know what I've just noticed with my content is a lot of the stuff that I'm really proud of is things that cover serious subjects, which is weird for me because I generally don't cover that type of stuff, but when I do it ends up being, like, something that I'm really proud of, because, like, obviously with the autism representation in the media video, that one, it was a very serious subject, and I was happy with how that one came out, and a lot of people were also happy with how it came out. But it seems like most of the videos of mine that do really well and the ones that I'm actually proud of are serious subjects, which is weird because, like I said, I generally don't cover that type of stuff.
But that's natural because, I mean, I feel this way, and I assume a lot of the people, our contemporaries, feel this way, but just that, like, as much as I love cartoons and as much as they, like, it's great and fun to talk about them, and I like having my channel as a way of escapism, when I could talk about something real, like, especially if I can also use cartoons as a way to talk about something real, that means something more than just saying, oh, well, I liked this episode because it was funny, or I disliked it. It's like, you're tying it to something that's real and meaningful. Like, I wouldn't say that the Hillenburg video I just recently did is like my best work or anything like that, but I touched on something that I think it shows I was relatively passionate about just how disrespectful I feel this action is, and you know, it I don't know. I mean, it's not like I tied it to cartoons or anything, but it's a cartoon related topic, and I feel strongly about it, and I think that's. Yeah, not to say that there isn't, you know, there's nothing wrong with making fun videos for escapism about cartoons. Like, absolutely not. I've done it a lot. That's fun. But you'll find that the more meaningful stuff is always going to be something where, of course. I mean, I have not seen your video yet, Lea, but it's been on the back burner for a while because it seems like an interesting subject that means a lot personally to you. So I'm sure you have a lot of really interesting insights on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's funny too. It's like almost a half an hour long. It's 25 minutes long. But most of the people who have watched it, like, I know Cosmo's watched it and Kevin has watched it, and they both told me that it was a very good video and that they learned a lot from it.
Yeah.
And like the thing, oh yeah, I know Monsters, you watched it too, right? Because you commented on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like, it was, like, that's the thing. Like, I watched Steven Universe a lot. And I don't talk about the serious aspects, but the reason why I watch it is because I can relate to it so heavily. So ultimately, even if I'm not talking about the serious subjects that the show covers 24/7, the main reason why I am watching it and the main reason why I'm so passionate about it is because it has all of these serious themes in it. Like, obviously, if I'm trying to escape from it, I'm not going to talk about it, like, all the time, but it is like a coping method. Like, and I've been, I think, pretty open about why I watch the show.
Because of your big love for Pearl.
Well, listen. That's one of the reasons, yes. But I don't need to be called out like this. No, I'm joking. It's fine. Everybody, it's basically the main joke in my server as well. We have bingo cards. Whenever we have bingo cards whenever there's new Steven Universe, and the free space is Lea is gay for Pearl. So
I need to start doing that for the recast recordings. I'll get a bingo card of like Monsters-isms. It's like, did he mention Camp Laszlo? Did he bring up DVDs? Do you have something?
Is Thanos' dad?
Do you have something vaguely like weird and inappropriate to talk about with what we watched? Like, boom, that's got to be.
Did you watch a documentary?
Okay.
But yeah.
All right, and actually, I mean that subject, well, that ties into our discussion pretty well, because that's why BoJack is my favorite show, because it's a show that it says things and it means something, and it's not just about making me laugh. It's also about making people think about behavior and Hollywood and so good. But we'll get to that in a minute. First, we got to announce what's happening next week. Next week on the recast, we are going to be talking about Toy Story. Which Toy Story? We're actually not entirely sure yet, because Toy Story 4 hasn't come out yet, so I can't tell you which movie it has the most in common with, or if maybe it would be a better idea to compare two of the already existing Toy Story trilogy films. Either way, we are going to be comparing two films in the Toy Story franchise, so tune in for that. Also, before we head off to break, I do want to say that in the upcoming discussion, we do talk a little bit about sexual harassment and sexual abuse, as well as some other serious and heavy subject matter. We don't go too in-depth into anything, but I thought I'd give this warning here in case anyone out there is uncomfortable with such discussion. Okay, see you in a minute. And we are back. So, it is time to talk about my favorite show. And one of my favorite episodes from my favorite show.
Camp Laszlo?
Yes.
Well, to be fair, both of these episodes we're talking about do involve like a summer camp type setting. So
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the 2K Bertie episode is literally references summer camp, but okay.
Literally.
So there you go, Monsters. There's your tie into all this. Because I guess we should just
Yes.
preface, Monsters, you haven't seen BoJack or...
I've
Tuca and
seen
Bertie.
like 5 episodes of BoJack, and they're all from season 1. Yeah. This was my first episode of Tuca and Bertie. From the looks of it, these episodes were a part of some overarching stories that I have no idea about. So
Monsters is really funny because I feel like every single recast I've been on, you've only seen the episodes from that show and you haven't seen like the rest of the show.
yeah.
We only bring Lea in for the lore. That's you're reserved for lore.
I'm the lore
You're
person.
You're the Lorax.
Don't even. I know. No, I was gonna say something else, but then I realized it was inappropriate, so I censored myself.
Oh.
But now you said I was the Lorax, so that's even
Yep.
worse.
Lea is the Lorax. She speaks for the
The
for
memes.
the feels. Okay. Okay. So the first episode we're talking about is the Old Sugarman Place, which is the second episode of BoJack season 4. It's the first episode with BoJack in it from that season because the first one is about Mr. Peanut Butter running for mayor, I think. I haven't seen that one in a while, but that's like basically the shenanigans of what's happening with all the rest of the characters, and then you're like, where BoJack be at? And I guess to give further context and spoilers for BoJack and Tuca and Bertie, just big ones. If you didn't pick up on it, Monsters, in the previous season, right at the end, BoJack had Sarah Lynn die on him.
Who's Sarah Lynn?
Who was his co-star on?
She was the younger girl, right?
Kristen Shaw.
It was basically the one who he was just like, oh, I gotta like be
Protect, yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
Basically.
Now, 2 things. First thing is, didn't she get removed from the credit sequence afterwards, or from the opening? Wasn't she in the opening, and then she got removed after she died?
Yeah, the opening changes every episode.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. The second thing is, was she the same character that was like the Miley Cyrus parody in the first season, or am I thinking of someone else?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
No, he has a relatively inappropriate. Well, relatively. He has an inappropriate relationship with her in the
He
first
does.
season too, but it gets much worse, and that's what BoJack is running away from essentially.
Okay.
That and the fallout of that.
And yeah, because I mean, he's ignoring Diane, so there must be
Right,
something going
right.
on there.
They have a very weird relationship, so.
Yeah. To get to the actual synopsis of the episode, essentially, BoJack is running away from his problems, which could be any episode, to be honest. But BoJack is driving away from his problems, and he realizes that he can go to his mother's old, like, camp. Not camp.
Childhood home?
Summer cabin. Not childhood home. Summer cabin. He realizes he can go to his mother's old summer cabin. He gets there, and it's all beaten down. He meets a neighbor who wants to help him fix it up. The two progress in fixing it up, and there's a story with the neighbor and the neighbor's issues from the past. Meanwhile, there's a parallel story going on where we see glimpses of BoJack's mother, grandmother, and grandfather, and their tragedy in dealing with his uncle dying in the war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that's a complicated synopsis, but it's a complicated episode.
It really is. Because you're going between back and forth on both stories.
Right, and it's not just back and forth on both stories, but it's also BoJack's story, and then the neighbor has a story too. So there's just like a lot in there, and what, like I said, this is one of my favorite episodes of the show, if not my favorite episode, because it doesn't really hold your hand or treat you like, I don't know, like it just kind of, it presents both stories in such an interesting way, and also it's such a left field because Monsters, as of this point in the show, BoJack's mother has had like maybe 3 or 4 like brief appearances where basically she just says your show is garbage, you're garbage, With this flashbacks to his childhood where she's like yelling at him, but that's about it. Her character went as far as like, just abusive mother essentially.
Right.
Yeah, that's all you
that
know
makes a lot
about
of
her.
sense now.
Right.
Because, that childhood that she had must have been traumatizing. So, the lasting effects of that must have led into her parenting BoJack that way.
Well, it was also the thing that her mother said, like, don't ever love anyone as much as I loved Cracker Jack. So she's not allowing herself to love her son because she saw what happened when her mother loved her son to the point where
Lobotomy.
when he died, she literally had to get a lobotomy because she just couldn't deal with it.
And if you're wondering also what this had, like at the time watching this, it's just kind of like, what does this have to do? Like, yes, it's about BoJack's mother. It's not even really about his mother this episode. It's about his grandmother more than anything else.
Yeah.
Like, what does this have to do? And basically, this season is about BoJack believing he has a daughter. And there's a lot of themes of, is what's wrong with BoJack passed on genetically? Does it have to do with parenting? And is BoJack going to mess up this kid the same way that he was messed up? And also, BoJack's mother in the present, we find out as of this season, has dementia and has to come live with BoJack. So this episode, although it seems like completely random in what it chooses to focus on, does a really great job of setting up a lot of the themes and ideas for the rest of the season without really being obvious that that's what it's doing. You don't sound impressed.
No, I'm super impressed. I mean, I can't speak about it too heavily because I haven't seen it, but just from you explaining it, it sounds like a lot of really deep stuff that's relatable and, really serious, tough issues to kind of go through. And the fact that a show like this is tackling it is really amazing.
Absolutely. And I love the parallelism of the stories, and I especially love when they come together for the song. Like, I think that was a really interesting way to just kind of tie them both in. Like, I don't know, I love that whole scene where it just kind of flashes, and instead of just like cutting from present to past, they have these little like windows basically with like a kind of a soft fade between them of the past and the present going on simultaneously. And I also love the juxtaposition of, during that scene, BoJack's grandmother is just having this horrible breakdown and making a scene, and just it's sad and uncomfortable. And then meanwhile, in the present, we have BoJack shenanigans of fighting off these crabs with tongs. Like, that's BoJack Horseman in a nutshell. It's this juxtaposition of, here's fun, wacky, and then here's this just grieving mother. Like,
when I was going to say, it's super interesting that there was the back and forth, but then in that one moment, it's happening at the same time. So you have, like, two things that you're looking at the same time. Like, to be honest, I was more so focused on the grandmother's breakdown than I was on BoJack, because I'm just like, what is, because there's so, like, you can watch that episode like twice and focus on two different things and get two different stories. Like, you could be focusing on BoJack and be getting BoJack's story, or you could be focusing on the grandmother and his mother and be getting their story, which personally, I mean, I was more drawn to what was happening with the grandmother and his mom.
Oh, of course. Well, but BoJack's, the thing is, you're absolutely right. And watching this episode for probably maybe the fourth or fifth time, but, really examining it, because I know I was going to talk about it, what BoJack's story is a lot more, like, really the story in the present is mostly the story of the neighbor. BoJack's story is almost all, like, metaphorical in the sense that, okay, so BoJack spends the whole, like, 8 months fixing up a cabin, and then what does he do at the end of it? He destroys it.
Oh,
That's
I love
BoJack.
that so much.
That's who he is, no matter how much time he puts into making himself better. Right at the beginning, the neighbor fixes his door, and BoJack breaks it off. Someone, through an act of kindness, although, he's saying it's for fixing the neighborhood or whatever, but essentially it's an act of kindness that the neighbor comes and fixes his door in the winter. He waits till the winter to do it, mind you. And then BoJack can't have that. He's too stubborn. He's too, I don't deserve nice things. I'm a bad person, so I'm going to break this. And that's BoJack. And then also that when he tries to help someone, it blows up in his face horribly. And it just, I don't know. It's like, I didn't necessarily get that the first time through, But like that's a metaphor for both of those things are just metaphors for just who BoJack is and his arc through the show of just no matter how many people come and try to help him, ultimately he destroys everything.
It's like a relapse.
It's literally just relapse. Like if you throughout the show, he literally has these things where he'll get highs where he's better, and then all of a sudden one thing will happen, and then boom, like everything just comes crashing down, and he's worse than he was at the beginning of the series. Like it happens every single time, which is why usually when I watch BoJack, I'm never optimistic that he's gonna get better, because he always falls back, always, every single time.
See, I don't, and this is interesting, and this is what the show makes me think about, is that I like the character, not necessarily the person, but I like the character. Obviously, I think BoJack as a character is great, but I think I want to see the world through BoJack, through the lens of the show and through the lens of BoJack. I don't necessarily root for him to get better. I'm not rooting for him to get worse, but it's just kind of, and a lot of shows do this, right? Rick and Morty does it, where like, you know, Beth and Jerry will have a breakthrough with their relationship and then it'll go back to being awful.
Right.
That feels like a terrible zigzag. That's just every like status quo. With BoJack, I never have the problem or the complaint like, oh, well, every season he no matter how much progress he makes, it go back to square one, because I don't think he goes back to square one. I think he always ends up in a slightly different place.
Right.
When he relapses. He burns certain bridges and then he repels, like, his relationship with Princess Carolyn got better in the most recent season. You know, he really messed that one up in season 4, and then he built it up a little bit. And yeah, and also interesting to note that season 4 is the only one, well, I guess maybe season 5 a little bit, but season 4 ends on probably the most positive note. He doesn't, at the end of the season, he does not screw up his relationship with Hollyhock. That's the most positive that can come out of that show, really.
Which is good, because I was pretty sure that he was going to, but you know, good on him that he didn't.
Right. And again, that's what the show is. The show isn't about like, it's, you know, to be a good person, it's not about like you have to be a good person at all times, otherwise you're a bad person. It's like, no matter what, whether you consider yourself a good person or a bad person, you still have the potential to do good acts. Just because, but part of BoJack's flawed mentality is that he thinks that because he's a bad person, it doesn't matter. One more bad act doesn't matter. Like, that's how he sees it a lot of the time. And when he's a good person, he sees one bad act as just the ultimate downfall.
Right, like, and then he just keeps going.
Well, right. I'm already in this spiral. Like, why not? Like, this happened with Sarah Lynn, so why don't I just run away and just give up on everything? Like,
yep. Which, and like you said, it's interesting because he ends up like in a different place each time whenever he does have that downfall. Like in one of them, it was about drug addiction because he was obsessed on the pain meds, which was completely different from, let's say, the conflict he had in the other seasons. So
right, his conflict of not being able to get over Charlotte, who he personified as this ultimate love interest, even though she's not that at all. And the things that he does in chasing that are awful and unforgivable, and that puts him in a bad place. And that also ties. That's what I also love about BoJack, is that it doesn't forget things. Like it generally things. It's a lot of shows have this like seasonal memory where a season arc will happen and then like everything will tie in, but then after that it's like, well, that's over. The bad guy's beaten and we're gonna move forward next season. BoJack always lingers, like when he ruins his relationship with Todd or Princess Carolyn, like in the next season he has to rebuild that. That doesn't just come back out of nowhere.
No.
I wrote down a quote that I'm pretty sure BoJack said after they completed renovating the cabin, and I think he said, "It's beautiful, but everything else sucks." It's just like that. That's a good quote that kind of goes into his psyche at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In regards to this episode, I also like some of the devices they use to, like the storytelling devices of BoJack goes to the hardware store because he has to at that point, and then he's reminded of what he missed back home, and through a really funny exchange where he's saying that he's not BoJack Horseman, and they didn't think he was BoJack Horseman, but then they think he's too fat. Like that whole exchange about him being too fat to be BoJack, or BoJack is too fat to be him. Like really funny lines, but also it reminds him of Back Home. And, like, the fact that they're doing a biopic about Sarah Lynn dying, like, that's more Hollywood satire of, like, someone died, better cash in on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's surprising how serious this episode was, but, there's certain things in there, like the girls at the hardware store talking about how when people die, they poop. Or, like, Paul Giamatti is BoJack in the thing and just acting super exaggerated. Like, it's funny how that stuff can still be super funny in an episode that deals with a really serious subject matter.
Well, let's talk about something that does combine the serious and the silly. The portrayal of the past, okay? I love BoJack's portrayal of the past because essentially what it's doing is it's holding the awful things about history in your face so much that you can't help but laugh because they're so on the nose with it. Especially BoJack's grandfather, like
yeah,
polio and blackface.
Yeah. Oh, honey, it'll be here forever, just like polio and blackface. And it's like, and this line, it's like, well, I have to go. I'm as a man of the 40s, I'm not equipped to deal with womanly emotions, nor do I want to try. And then he literally just scuttles out of the room, like. It's great because it gets across the sad, serious awfulness of what they're trying to show, of the past, of how the past affects the present, but at the same time they're doing it in a funny way. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Miss, before you leave, have another drink to cool you down.
Yeah. Do the responsible thing and have one more drink to calm your nerves, and then drive your child home. And the great one there's
the Holocaust one.
Right.
Oh yeah, that one was good too.
It's the Jews' fault for peeving off Hitler so bad. Like, that's so funny because it's so awful. It manages to have it both ways. Like,
yeah.
Because let's be real, if they didn't do jokes like that and they instead were just like, yeah, man, it's wartime and people are dying left and right and things are awful and no one's respecting women. Like, I don't want to watch that. Like, it's horrible and it's true and it's good to never forget that, but that doesn't make for an entertaining episode.
No, it's clever.
Right, but in doing it the way they do it, they're still able to get across. They hide the serious within the silly, and that's what cartoons can be, and that's what BoJack is. Well,
especially considering like how heavy that episode was in general.
Yes.
I feel like if the entire episode was heavy the entire way through, you'd be a depressed mess by the end of it. At least like it's balanced out. Exactly. Yeah. Like when you're covering things like that, you do need to incorporate some humor into it, which we'll talk about the Tuca and Bertie episode, but they did in that one too. So it's just important to find that balance.
And also BoJack, the thing is that BoJack isn't afraid of being serious either. Like, I say it like they do this and they do juxtapose it, but at the end with the lobotomy, that's all 100% played straight.
Yeah.
There isn't a joke there. I mean, there's a joke there in that she says, I have half a mind, but like, that's not a ha-ha joke.
I was going to say, yeah, it's not a funny joke. Like, it's a joke, but like when it's a very extremely uncomfortable joke. Like, the first time she said that, I felt like super upset for like a while. I was just like, I was like, oh, she's not even going to continue that. She just left it there. Like, I have half a mind. And then, like,
and that also plays on how they dealt with mental illness at the time.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Just, someone's messed up. Just give them a lobotomy.
Yep. BoJack's grandfather has a line about, like, science can't fix the heart, but we can do wonders for the brain. Like, he says something like that. And
then he went on to say, like, your mother just let her womanly emotions take a hold of her. Or something like that. Yeah, that episode, like that lobotomy thing. I remember the first time I saw it, I was like so caught off guard by it. Like, it makes sense given what time period it makes sense in. But yeah.
Well, don't forget, and I'm curious if Monsters picked up on this, but there's three times that there's reference to half a brain. I mean, there's the one once she's been lobotomized, but at the beginning she says something witty, and then BoJack's grandfather is like, how'd I end up with someone like you? And she says something about like having a smart brain or something, and he's like, that's the half you can keep. He says that, and then a little bit later, I think he also says, I have half a mind to do something. There's other references to having half a mind. They foreshadow it really effectively.
The BoJack writers are really good at what they do.
I wouldn't have picked. I didn't pick up on that the first time either. So
yeah, I feel like with that episode, you definitely need to watch it a few times through in order to pick up on everything. Just because there's so much happening and so much to like try and understand in that episode.
Right.
The storytelling reminded me of, and I'm not saying that like, you know, I'm not comparing it in a bad way.
Don't you dare mention Camp Laszlo.
No. The story reminded me of the Avatar episode, the Avatar and the Fire Lord. Not only in the way where it's just like there's issues going on in the present and they use flashbacks from the past with parallels to kind of, you know, learn from that, but also just in the way that it, you know, the story in the past starts out as this really lighthearted, innocent thing, and then it just by the end it's really tragic and awful.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one of the actually, I was thinking when I was watching this, I thought of your review a little bit that how you Drake and Josh, how you mentioned that physical comedy is like, you know, broad and accepted by most, like it can be enjoyed by anyone.
Right.
And honestly, that's what BoJack. Okay, BoJack fixes a cabin but fails miserably. That's just like goofy comedy that like anyone, you know, BoJack putting his arm in the drywall and sinking in.
Yeah, him falling through the floor.
Right. That's incredibly like broad slapstick stuff that you would not ever expect that this show that episode ends in a lobotomy. Like when BoJack's falling through the floor and stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's. But it doesn't feel out of place. It doesn't feel wrong. Right. That's the magic of BoJack.
Well,
like
the opening was really cool too, because I mean, you know, it's established. I haven't seen too much of BoJack, but just the whole montage, ironically, with the song "A Horse with No Name."
He's got a Tesla. Yeah.
Okay, I actually wanted to mention that this isn't like part of this, but "A Horse with No Name" is my all-time favorite song, like out of anything.
It's a really good song.
Yes. Not that cover specifically. Like, I like the original.
The America version, yeah.
I like the cover. Yeah. Listen, I really like the cover.
I mean, I liked the cover too. I thought it was a good cover, but the original one by America is literally my favorite song out of anything. So like that's why when we were covering this episode, I was like, oh my god, I get to listen to my favorite song again for an episode. But yeah, just as a side note, that's literally my all-time favorite song is "A Horse with No Name" because that was the one when I was younger, I used to go on road trips a lot, which is funny because it ties into this a little bit because BoJack's on like a road trip.
Right.
But when I was little, I used to go on cross-country trips with my grandpa, and we had a CD because we didn't want to listen to news. We had a CD, and that was one of the songs that was on there, and the CD was on loop, and we only had like 20 songs. So this song would come on a lot. So like this is like the one song, it's like my favorite thing, and it makes me think of like my grandpa a lot. So it's just, you know, it's just weird that it kind of ties in with what the episode is, the reason why I like the song so much.
Right.
But
it's
I don't
song
know.
Literally about a horse, which is great.
I know, which is
like,
funny.
Like that's BoJack.
Exactly.
But, actually, speaking of that beginning, yeah, that was like the hope spot of last season. By the way, BoJack watching these horses run kind of inspired him, and then to see him here where he doesn't join them and he just kind of like turns away is just like.
Well, especially also the thing too is you have to keep in mind he never gave anyone his name either. He made up names.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
What Hambone McFake Namington or whatever.
Yeah, something like that. I feel like I always catch things, and then when I tell you, you're like, oh my god.
Well, there's so many because I feel like I know a lot about this episode, but it's just always
there's a lot to
learn.
unpack.
Well, he also, if you think about it, he doesn't really know who BoJack is. Like he himself doesn't know,
which is a big deal because I mean, you saw the first season, Monsters. A running gag on the show is that BoJack will go somewhere and then someone's like, "Aren't you the horse from Horsing Around?"
Yeah.
So BoJack going somewhere where, where nobody knows his name, like the Cheers theme song. It's big and it's different, and it shows that BoJack could theoretically live a life here where he could have started anew. I mean, here's the thing: at the end of last season, correct me if I'm wrong on this, I'm pretty sure he basically drives his Tesla full speed, not looking where he's going. It's essentially suicidal. until he sees the horses running. I think that's the last scene of the third season. And
Yeah.
so it's interesting to see that essentially he was inspired enough to want to kind of start a new life, and he doesn't have the idea to go to the cabin until he sees the sugar. Like, it's not like he was planning on this. He was just driving because he burned another bridge. He killed someone essentially, or he helped facilitate a death. And yeah, so to see him be inspired to kind of to go somewhere and start a new life instead of offing himself, that could have been such a prosperous thing for him to do. He could live out his life there. He's got money. He's got a nice cabin there. Like, but he doesn't do that because he doesn't feel. I think it's because he doesn't feel like he deserves it.
Huh.
And when Diane's talking about how, like, oh, well, no one belongs and everyone belongs here because, like, no one belongs here and we're all fake and we all suck. I think he feels like he belongs in Hollywood because he sucks, because he's too good to have, like, a beautiful cabin on a lake and live a quiet life. Like, that would be a thing that BoJack could do, and that would effectively, like, lower the drama in his life and give him a quiet life where he just lives it out. But
he also seemed like he had, like, a pretty good relationship. I forget what the dragonfly's name is.
Isn't it like Ernie or something?
Something like that. I don't call him the neighbor.
Yeah, the neighbor. Like, they did say what his name was. I think I forgot what it was. But he seemed like he had, like, a pretty good friendship starting with him, you know, until he made him fly.
Right.
But I feel
Eddie.
like he yeah,
Eddie.
Is that what it was?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like he could have eventually, because it seems like they're both broken people.
Right.
So
right, and they're both kind of crusty, and they're both bonded over making fun of the girls at the hardware store.
Oh
like,
my god. Sorry, you
What?
just made me think of another parallel. The fact that the house is broken and they're fixing the house like they're fixing themselves.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
my god,
of
this
course.
show is so layered.
That was part of the parallel. Like, he has people help him get better, but then ultimately he's always the one that tears himself back down.
Wow.
Did you listen to me, monsters?
No, beforehand, yeah, no, I just thought I looked at it from a different angle.
Right, right.
That's why, like, this episode is really good, because, like, you definitely would not, I don't think you would catch the symbolism the first time you're watching
No.
it. If you're not looking for symbolism, like, if you don't know to look for it, it's definitely one of those episodes where it's subtle enough that it's not preachy, but it's still
Right.
there.
Absolutely. And I mean, the line about Time's Arrow marching forward seems like an incidental thing, but a later episode is literally called Time's Arrow, and I think it does kind of sum up a lot of what BoJack's problem is that he thinks that, like, there is no going back and saving Sarah Lynn's life. That will never happen, no matter how bad BoJack feels about it, no matter how bad he is or what it, like, nothing will ever change that. And all you can do is move forward and be a better person, but that's not easy. The easier thing is to sit in a quiet, dark room and feel bad about yourself. That's the easy thing, but you're not moving forward. You know, and focusing your energy on something that you literally cannot fix instead of all these relationships that BoJack could be working on. That's so real, you know?
Well, I feel like most people tend to do that because it's a lot
Yeah.
easier to stay where you are than acknowledge things, acknowledge that you're not okay, and acknowledge something that's wrong with you. And it's not easy to do that and then move forward, because part of it is acknowledging that you yourself,
It's a part of your history, and
exactly.
it will never change.
And it's just like most people would rather avoid it, and in order to move forward you can't avoid things, and that's why most people generally stay in the same place, which is why it's relatable. I mean, I've had certain things where I don't want to acknowledge it. I mean, eventually I have to, because you realize at a certain point you're not going to get better, and you're still going to have those bad qualities if you don't acknowledge those things. So, you know, that's why it is relatable, because I think we've all been through situations like that, and whether we choose to move on or not, that ultimately, you know, it determines who you end up becoming or where you are still in life.
Yeah.
And they talk about it in other seasons of the show, but, like, BoJack is kind of obsessed with this idea of being a good person or not being a good person. That it's it's such a binary thing that like having this incident in his past makes him feel like he can never be a good person. And it's I don't know. I love this show. I love how interesting it is. I love how this episode doesn't have any other character aside from BoJack and Diane at the end. Like all the other characters are new characters, or BoJack's mother, who is in child form, and we didn't even see that much of her up to that point anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
That to take this show where it's like the first episode of the season doesn't have BoJack in it, or it might have him as a cameo. It shows Diane calling him a lot, like we see the other half of this, by the way. But to do that and then to have the second episode be nothing but the main character and a bunch of new characters, like that's bold, and that's such a good choice.
I'll also mention that as an infrequent viewer of the show, sometimes I did kind of take a step backwards and kind of think about the fact that there's horse people and like they're serving in World War II, and and I found some hilarity in that, but I also realized that it's really an impressive feat that despite some of those odd quirks, the show remains like it can still convey things in an ordinary manner despite having these odd things, and the fact that it's not all humans in the show.
Right. And something small I like to mention. It's not I wouldn't consider it a mistake. I just find it funny that BoJack makes a line earlier about how he's like a 400-pound horse and he has to climb up the thing, and that's difficult because he's very, very heavy. And then later this dragonfly is able to fly him up easy, no problem. How heavy BoJack is. That's just the cartoon logic of the world. All right, I'm ready to move on if you guys are.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tuca and Bertie. The episode is The Jelly Lakes, which does kind of sound like it could be a Camp Lazlo episode title,
Yeah.
to be honest.
It does.
Okay, so The Jelly Lakes. So essentially, and tell me if this sounds familiar, Tuca and Bertie begin the episode driving away from problems that happened in previous episodes. Episode starts in silence before they eventually start talking to each other. They basically make a pit stop at a mall, and they run into this biker who turns out to be Bertie's old coach, and they decide to go to Bertie's old summer cabin to kind of get away from their issues and work on things, I suppose. And then there's revealed that there is a traumatic experience that happened in the past, and then there's a climax where they're in the water, and yeah. there's kind of a lot that happens in this episode too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of parallels, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'll just list them off because I want to get this out of the way before people are like, what do these have in common aside from the obvious having like a summer lake home, which is, yeah. So they both start off driving away from problems, and it both starts off in silence too, which is interesting. They both stop, both BoJack and Tuca and Bertie stop somewhere, and through stopping somewhere, then they determine where they're headed, because before that, both of them are just driving aimlessly to get away from problems. There's a neighbor character in both of them that serves as like an ally, but then also somewhat of not an antagonist, but somewhat of a pushing issues. Like there's this idea of like the gym coach. I mean, we could talk about it. She's portrayed as like a good, nice character, but she's also really pushy with Bertie and really like doesn't. I don't know. I have feelings about that character, but either way, there's a neighbor character that's with his like friendship and enemy type thing. They have both of them has two teenage girl characters working at a store that make fun of the protagonists. Like, there's the revelations about dark histories, and then the end of the episode has them leaving the cabin.
Also, both family houses, both family vacation homes.
And almost car accidents.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. Okay,
yeah,
so there's a lot.
Yeah.
Also, putting issues on the nose.
Oh, also, Speckle was calling constantly.
Yep, that's one. Ignoring constant calls from someone back home.
Who's a potential romantic interest, although Speckle actually is the romantic interest in this case.
Right.
Diane and BoJack have a complicated relationship.
Yeah, so Tuca and Bertie definitely cut from a similar cloth from BoJack in certain ways, in certain senses of it definitely wants to tackle some serious subject matter. It definitely also wants to use incredibly silly humor as a way to balance that out. Anthropomorphic animals, obviously. But as I said previously, Toucan Bertie is a lot more focused on being a cartoon.
It is, yeah, because there's a lot of, I was gonna say, there's a lot of, like, certain things, like, in this episode, one of the ones that made me laugh, like, really hard, because I wasn't expecting it, is when the old lady fell, and then they're like, don't touch her, she's a part of the mall now, and then she turns into a jewelry stand, and I'm like, what? Yes. Like, there's certain things that happen in this show that are, like, really weird, but you know that they're actually happening. Like, in one of the episodes, Bertie's boob falls off because of sexual harassment, and it's like alive, and it goes out drinking one night and then comes back, and then it's like sagging for the rest of the day. Like, it's just weird. Like, certain things that happen in this cartoon are canon and you wouldn't think that they are. It's just really weird.
Yeah, I mean, they're literally go to a lake made of jelly.
Yeah, literally. And then there's
stylized in such a cool way.
Right, and there's no reason for it. There's no in-story reason why this lake needs to be made out of jelly. It's just, wouldn't it look cooler, or wouldn't it be funny or weird? That was probably the thinking behind it.
Or a peanut island.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Like, there's no reason for the old woman to be turning into a jewelry stand either, yet here we are.
Right.
I feel like, I don't know if you guys can relate to this at least, but there's a mall that's relatively close to me that's also kind of dead. And
Dead mall? Mall? Oh, yeah.
There's so that part's super relatable. Also, I love boba tea.
Oh, that's so good. Although my mall is so dead that it doesn't even have boba, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, same here.
So
sad.
My mall has a movie theater and a couple other shops, and that's about it. But it, like, when I was a kid, it had so much stuff, and that really is where, like, teens used to hang out and that sort of stuff.
It is, yeah. Which is it's funny because a lot of the stuff that they reference in Toucan Bertie is just like, oh, yeah, that's right. Like,
yeah.
So, what did you guys think of Jane Lynch's character? She plays the gym.
The coach?
Yeah, see, okay, here's
swim
the thing.
coach?
I don't understand, like, what's the deal with... I feel like things could have been bridged a little better, because essentially, she shows up as a biker, like, with biker helmet, and no one knows who she is, and she cuts off Toucan Bertie, which causes them to chase her down, which leads to the mall, and then they find her, and then she mentions something about the summer home, and then that's what leads them there. Like... And then it's kind of dropped that she's, like, a terrible driver. Like, I don't know. It's a very weird way to bridge into the summer home thing. I feel like BoJack seeing the sugar packet was a very, like, that's all that was needed. Such a subtle, like, thing to tie it in of why he went there.
I didn't realize that till now.
Oh,
my God.
Yeah. Yep, because it's the Sugarman Empire.
Yeah.
Yep, that's why he went there. But yeah, like, I don't know. I feel like it could have been a little more natural. And then, yeah, like, Dude, I don't think it was right, how pushy she was about the swim thing.
I have opinions on that. I think it was good, but only because in real life scenarios with stuff like that, people are pushy because they do want to know. Like, in real life situations, like if something traumatic happened to you and let's say you don't want to talk about it, and people don't know that something happened, and they could be really, really pushy about it.
Yeah.
I think
that looks
that's
super uncomfortable. Like,
well, yeah, but that's realistic though.
That's true. But I don't know. I guess I just don't like that she's presented as this unequivocally, like, positive character, the gym coach. I see her as a little more nuanced. I don't know.
Well, she didn't have bad intentions, really.
No. She just really wanted to know. Like, I think if she knew the severity of why she didn't want to tell her, I don't think she would have kept pushing it. But that's also probably the thing, because a lot of times you don't know when someone's been through something like that, because they're not just going to come out and tell you. So, like, of course she wouldn't have expected that that's what happened.
Right.
So, you know, I like that she was pushy about it, and they don't paint her as like a bad character, because a lot of the times people who are being pushy about things, they aren't doing it with malicious intentions. They just genuinely don't know that's what's happened to you, and then after the fact, once they find out, then they feel really bad about it. And I mean, like, that's just how things go. So, I mean, personally, I liked that, but
maybe I just have a high emotional intelligence that I would have known clearly that she was uncovered. No, I'm being sarcastic. That's fair. I guess I I don't know. It seemed obvious, but maybe it wasn't. And you're right. It is realistic.
Yeah, like, I mean, I wouldn't have expected that that's what happened. Like, I knew something, obviously there was a reason she wasn't talking about it, but personally, I wasn't expecting it to go in the direction that it did, but that's me.
The way that they make it clear that she's uncomfortable, I think, is more for the audience and to show that we understand that she's uncomfortable, and less for the coach, who's clearly a little bit ignorant to that stuff. So
that's fair. And we saw more discomfort because she really didn't want to go to Jelly Lakes before she even got there, and I don't think the coach really saw that either. She really just got in the fact that, I used to be Bertie's swim coach, like, I want to know why she just suddenly disappeared, type of a thing.
There's something that I didn't catch the first time I watched, much like with BoJack. There's foreshadowing where at the mall there's a beach like a beach shop, a beach display, and we see it. It's like a gag. There's some like funny title or something with it, but we see it, and then we see Bertie, and she like cringes. Like, it's a very small moment, but it foreshadows that she's not comfortable around, swimming, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say too, an interesting thing is, I don't know if Monsters saw like the episode that caused all of this, like right before.
I did not.
I don't refresh my memory too. I definitely saw it, but which
essentially
caused this?
What happened was there was this coworker that she had that was trying to find a job, and you know how.
Oh, right.
But essentially, like, what ends up happening is Pastry Pete is kind of a.
Well, Pastry Pete is a serial harasser.
Yes.
And I say this not to downplay what he's doing, but because the kind of abuser that they are showing off is not the kind of person that is he's the kind of abuser that hides in plain sight by downplaying his own abuse, rather than someone who does extreme horrible things and is an obvious abuser. That's the thing. He's an abusive person in ways that if you were to see one moment of it, you might brush it off as, oh, well, that's just innocent, or they're flirting or something. But through the pattern of the way he acts, he's clearly an abuser.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Because essentially in the episode leading up to this, the thing is that Bertie is a really good cook, and she started to be tutored under Pastry Pete, and Pastry Pete was doing these really inappropriate things to her, like pushing her against the countertop and everything, and pushing her head inside of, like, really, well, not inside of, but really close to a boiling pot. The complication with this being that Bertie, on some level, does like it, which is a very difficult and conflicting feeling. Exactly. And essentially Bertie thinks that this is just a thing that he was doing to her, but then what happens is Pastry Pete employs a new employee, and then she witnesses that the same thing is being done to her, but the difference in this situation is that the new employee pushes him back and is like, what are you doing? And she gets like, and rightfully so, she gets really angry about it and she just walks out. And then when she's leaving, she's just like, you knew he was doing this, why didn't you warn me? And that's...
Yeah, to make a long story short, basically the previous episode dealt with themes of harassment, and so it ties into... Bertie's running away from this, but then she ends up in this place that also has this initial trauma.
Yeah, the reason why I think it flows nicely is because it literally goes from her thinking that it's her fault that situation happens, and then it also comes out in this episode that she thinks it was her fault that she essentially got molested by the lifeguard. Like, in both situations she thinks it's her fault, and that's why I think it was a nice tie-in, because it's dealing with two things where in both cases she's blaming herself, but it's not her fault. And I like that Tuca brings that up, kind of, because it's hitting two subjects right in a row, because they do mention the Pastry Pete stuff in this episode as well.
Right. Something in thinking about this sort of thing in preparation for this episode, something that I was thinking about is the show as a whole. Basically, in almost all the episodes, there's a male character that basically acts on Bertie. That Bertie spends the whole season getting kind of, not treated fairly by all the guys, between the guy at work, her boss, who is not an abuser but could definitely be better with her, and was ignorant to other things that were going on in the office, Pastry Pete, obviously the person in the flashback here. But what got me interesting, what I thought was interesting about that, is that she's treated terribly by all these guys in her life, except she's treated really wonderfully by her boyfriend, who in turn she treats really badly.
Yeah.
It's interesting, and I feel like that's kind of I feel like on some level she takes out her frustrations on Speckle, who doesn't deserve it at all. She's kind of doormatted by all these other horrible men in her life, and then here's this guy that cares about her so much, and he's not calling. He doesn't even call as much as Diane calls BoJack. Like, I mean, granted that was over 8 months, but like he only calls a few times because he's concerned, and she just disappears, and she doesn't treat him with the respect that he deserves, and I think that's really interesting, and I think that is sadly. I don't want to say like cycle of abuse, because she's not like abusive towards him, but like. It does kind of perpetuate a cycle of you're treated poorly, and then you go on and treat other people in your life poorly. And
I think it also comes down to what they're trying to show is that all of these men are treating her this way, and maybe she's just assuming that Speckle is eventually going to treat her that way too. I mean, he hasn't shown any indication whatsoever that he would, but you know what I mean. It's just kind of like expecting this cycle to come, and if she feels like she's attached to him, she's gonna be hurt more. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean,
right.
that doesn't make what she's doing
I don't think,
right.
I don't think it's necessarily conscious on her part. I don't think she really realizes it at all. But it just kind of is interesting that if you watch the series, you'll still notice that like Speckle ends up being like one of the most kind, thoughtful, like patient, selfless characters in the entire show.
Yeah, Speckle's great. I love him. Like, he is the literal embodiment of a good boy. Like, he's just...
Mr. Peanut Butter?
No, Speckle's better than Mr. Peanut Butter. Mr. Peanut Butter has his own issues that he needs to work out.
Oh, and you can't... If this... Well, I'm sure this show will get a second season. If it gets a second and third season, you better believe Speckle's going to be getting some issues.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, he can't... I mean, he literally told Bertie, like, I don't know if we can... repair our relationship.
I was so proud of him for saying I
was so proud of him.
But it's interesting that this episode, the Jelly Lakes, paints much like, okay, so this is the second to last episode of this season, whereas BoJack's is the second episode of that season. BoJack's episode kind of colors a lot of where the season is going. It brings up a lot of themes and ideas, and BoJack's mother and all this other stuff that gets carried through the rest of the season. Whereas this revelation of her past, of what happened to Bertie in the past, kind of paints all the earlier stuff in an even more in a different light. You know what I mean? Like it colors kind of, I mean, obviously the stuff that happened to her was bad enough, but it kind of explains a little bit why she has the reaction she has, why she's unfortunately kind of afraid to do things a lot of the time. Yeah,
it definitely, like, I think when I eventually, like, usually what happens is when there's another series, I'll go back and watch it. I think when I rewatch it, it's definitely going to have some more, exactly, because it's just like, you know, now that this thing happened. It's kind of like with Steven Universe, when you find out who Rose really was and you go back and you watch it, and it kind of it has an entirely different meaning than the first time that you watched it. I definitely think that this is one of those cases, just because now you know that she has this history, and you know that, like, automatically this is something that you know is going through her mind. Like, you can't not forget about that, especially when you're having experiences. Like, even in the episode, when they see the girls that they're competing with, she goes, I wish I could protect them, and Tuca's like, from what? And she's like, from men. So, like, you know, it just has, like, a whole new layer onto it.
How do you feel about the kind of like tying, I guess, like tying her dealing with what happened to her in the past to this like idea of her swimming to the island?
I think like, it's great.
It's triumphant.
Yeah, right. It's a way to, because although, like, you know, how else do you deal with an issue like that in a show? I mean, what you could have them trying to track down this guy and like hurt him or something, but that doesn't that's not realistic. That's not like a good way to deal with that sort of issue. So
It's also not going to make her feel better either.
Right. That's not healthy. Tying her issues to this event that she wasn't able to complete because of them, and now she's older and she's more confident and she's dealing with this issue. Now she can make it to the lake. I think that, or the make it to the lake, make it to the island. I think that is that's how you make stories like this work. You tie it to an event, you tie it to an achievement, and you make her, because it's ultimately, it is about her reclaiming herself, not about, punishing someone else or about doing whatever. Like,
yeah, I mean, this too
I'm so glad. Sorry, I'm so glad they didn't have like this guy show up again at the
yeah,
lake or something.
Yeah,
that
no, that would have been the worst way to do it.
Right.
Right.
That would have been what a lot of other shows would have done. Like,
yeah, and then she's awkward around that guy, and then it eventually comes up, and then they all beat him up, which would ultimately solve nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously the dude does deserve to get beaten up, but that's not going to solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, personally, I liked it mainly because you could tell that she was super passionate about swimming, and that it used to be like her favorite hobby, and that she really wanted to get to that island. And a lot of times, with not even like sexual abuse, but just abuse in general, your abuser makes you hate and be afraid of something that you used to love so much.
Oh God, that's just like Pastry Pete. That's
exactly
her current hobby of cooking is now also being co-opted by.
Yep. And like the thing that I loved about this episode is that it really sucks when something like that happens, because then you feel like you're losing a part of yourself because you don't feel like you can go back to it. But the reason why I really liked how they did this was that she was taking it back. She wasn't letting this guy who molested her take something away from her. He had taken it away from her for the longest time, but then she's just like, you know what? No. She's like, I'm going back into this, and she claimed a part of herself back, and she's not letting him take that part of her away, which is why I really liked how they went about this, because you could stay away and avoid that part, but it's something that you really enjoyed, so why would you let that person take that away from you? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I also feel like keeping the actual, like, the specific details of the story very, 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 very limited. Like, just the very baseline, so you get the idea of what happened in Bertie's past without any. You don't need any of the gory details. You don't need any more specifics. And I like how it was done in this very interesting minimal style, animation wise. I feel like it's effective at kind of making the situation applicable to a lot of other people's experiences. And it also, it doesn't bring the episode down so far that it's just, it kind of, how do you come back from this? Because obviously it touches on the subject matter, and it deals with the subject matter, and it's a serious subject matter. But if we were to have a scene, I don't know, they dance the line very delicately, right? So that the cartoonishness of Tuca and Bertie doesn't come off as like uncomfortable after this. Like, they, much like BoJack, it's like they knew when to kind of tone it back. They knew when to use the artistic style, not for a gag, but for a way of showing something that they don't really want to show too much of, really effectively.
I also like how they don't give any details on the guy other than he's the lifeguard. I feel
just
like
a position of power. Yep.
Exactly. Like, just a position of power. They don't delve into, they don't make it seem like he's important, which in the grand scheme of things he isn't. The person who is important is Bertie and her experience that she got from it. So I really like that they're showing that he's not important. The person who is important is the victim, and like what happened to her and what is currently happening to her right now as a consequence of this situation. So I like that they didn't like focus on him other than, that's all this guy was, is he was just a lifeguard that was grooming her essentially, and this is what it led up to. So, but I don't know, I think that they handled it very respectfully, and they did it probably the best way that they probably could have done it.
There's also a giant crab.
Yeah.
In this episode.
That's name's Connie.
Yeah, I love. That's just a part of. I'm just, to pivot a little bit. That's just a part of the insanity. Is that, like, oh God, what was? There's an offhanded line where Tuca's like, Bertie's like, there's danger in the lake, and Tuca's like, crabs? And she's like, no, not that. Well, yes, okay, there's also crabs. And then Tuca gets gets pinched by a small crab earlier. And then there's just this giant crab monster that comes out, and it's just like...
And then she also goes,
it.
I wish that were my daughter. And then the mini crab comes up and goes, hey!
Right, and then they eat one of its arms, but they're also hanging out with it. It's just
they're like, she's like, sorry about your leg, Connie. She goes, oh, that's okay. She's like, you fought with honor. And I'm just like, and they're literally just eating her leg.
Yeah, I also love how when the little crab pitches Tuca's like, oh no, an obstacle.
And then she literally just falls. I was like, that's literally a mood. Like, that's me whenever I'm trying to do something and any minor inconvenience happens.
All right, is there any aspect of this that we haven't talked about?
The eggs. There was the house in BoJack, and then there's the eggs in this one.
Right, that's right. Tuca's also in this episode. Obviously, it's a very Bertie-centric episode, but Tuca's also dealing with her own issues.
Well, I was thinking more and so you're taking something that's broken, obviously referring to Bertie, and you're renovating it into something new and into something beautiful.
I think that applies to Tuca as well, to be honest
does,
with you.
yeah.
It applies to both of them.
That's what's good is it applies to both of them. I mean, obviously it's a Bertie-centric episode, but there's also stuff that happened with Tuca literally the episode before that.
Right.
So it's referring to both of them, but it was basically just showing that even if you're a broken person, you don't necessarily need to get those broken pieces back from you, but you can find other things to fill in those holes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the broken egg will never be fixed, but it can be turned into something even more beautiful than it originally was.
Exactly, which I think was really good in terms of just trying to explain, like, to Tuca and to Bertie. Like, I think that the coach's wife kind of knew that something was going on, and that's kind of why she was so adamant on it. But yeah, I just think that it was a really nice way to tie it in, especially with, like, BoJack had the house and fixing the house up, and then they had the eggs, but the thing was is they weren't necessarily fixing the eggs. They were just decorating them. Yeah, basically just not even really covering up the fact that it was broken, because you could tell it was still broken. They just turned something tragic into something beautiful. So I just like it a lot.
Also, I feel like the coach's wife's line about how... So Tuca takes one, and then she does something really fast to it, and then she's happy with it. And I feel like the coach's wife's line about how, like, oh, it took me, like, 100 eggs before I found one that I was happy with. Like, I feel like that's kind of like the dynamic of Tuca and Bertie, in that, like, Tuca is able to be happy in the immediate and to, you know, just kind of embrace her wild side and who she is.
Right.
But Bertie can't do that. But Bertie's also able to, I guess, achieve more than Tuca in the long term because she sticks with things. But Bertie's not. I think Tuca is probably happier than Bertie through most of the season.
Yeah, for sure.
But
I do think,
not as fulfilled. Like that's
yeah,
the
that's what I was
interesting
gonna
thing.
say. Yeah.
There's happiness and there's fulfillment.
Yeah, because the thing with Tuca is that she's happy in the short term, and those fixes that she makes make her happy in the short term. Like, she gets, I think it was the leopard or the jaguar pet or whatever, it literally only makes her happy for, like, 2 days. And then she's just, like, never... So she knows how to make herself happy, but it's never happy for longer than a few days or weeks.
Right, because she can't commit. And she says it in the episode that Bertie mentions, you know, Bertie's the one thing that Tuca's stuck with.
Exactly. Like, it's the one thing that's constant in her life. So while it's a good thing in one way, the thing with Bertie is she may not be happy now, but she's building up to, like, I wouldn't say eternal happiness, but happiness in the long term.
She's got a relationship. She's got a job that she's not thrilled with, but, like, she gets paid well. She got a raise. She also has this other job where, even though there's issues with it, she's still a very successful cook. And by the end of the season, you know, she's pursuing that on her own terms. Like, she has long-term successes, even though she definitely comes off as more neurotic and more like, oh, I've got so many problems in the short term, especially compared with Tuca.
Right. Monsters, you have anything
Yeah, sorry.
to add?
No,
Yeah.
you're fine. I don't care. Yeah, I really like the aesthetic. I should bring that up. Because obviously it's more cartoony than BoJack is. BoJack takes itself a little bit more literally. Yeah, but all the stylistic things, like when they were in the car, they had a bunch of really interesting sequences they did. I just like the art style, and I like some of the best way I can kind of describe it is almost kind of like trippy, hallucinogenic visuals at times.
I think the animation is better than BoJack's, to be honest.
Yeah,
it's more creative.
Right. Well, I don't mean like arts. I mean art style is cool too, but I mean like the actual animation. BoJack tends to be a little more stiff. Like I don't think there's really anything particularly wrong with it, but Tuca and Bertie's is definitely a lot more expressive, even when they're not being specifically cartoony about it.
Right. Well, I feel like because Tuca and Bertie is more cartoony, they have more freedom when it comes to the type of animation that they can do. And I like I said, I don't think BoJack has bad animation. It's just the style that is conducive to it.
You wouldn't praise BoJack for having good animation.
No,
I wouldn't.
I would.
I think it's art design. I think it's art design, and the characters is fantastic, and I think that's kind of how BoJack makes up for it. Because like, just the way BoJack and all the animals are designed with the patterns and stuff, I think BoJack succeeds so far in that. But yeah, animation wise, I think Tuca and Bertie has it.
Yeah. Like even the introduction, they move around like all noodly and everything.
What was that about nudes?
I said noodly. They move like noodles, like their arms.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Tuca and Bertie. Bertie and Tuca. All right. Yeah, so I mean, I hope at least if you haven't seen these shows and for some reason you wanted to stick around, I hope I hope you go and watch them, because clearly there's a lot to talk about.
Oh yeah. No, they're both really, really good shows.
In terms of like comparing them, I mean, like personally, I prefer the old Sugarman Place, just because like I like the parallel story. I feel like that conceit works really well for it. I think Tuca and Bertie does well with what it's got, but I feel like it's a little less connected. Like I said, the whole biker thing, I feel like it didn't stitch together things very well there. I also found BoJack to be like a little quieter and a little more introspective, which is typically how I kind of prefer it. Like I know other people would prefer Tuca and Bertie's method, and that's totally fine. But I prefer BoJack's a little bit. I think they're both fantastic episodes. I think they're both fantastic shows. But for me, I would say BoJack wins out.
I'm trying to think, because this is like a really hard decision for me, because I think it comes down to more on which message you prefer, because I do think that they're both very good episodes, and I think that they cover the situations better. But as far as relatability, while I do think that the BoJack thing is relatable, it's more so relatable the more you watch it, whereas Tuca and Bertie is instantly relatable. You know what I mean? Because the subject material, like, there's a lot of women that either deal with sexual harassment or they've been molested. I mean, same thing with males as well. It's not just female exclusive. And I think that people could automatically relate to if they had, like, someone who they thought, someone who made them feel special, and then they violated that trust and they did something. I think more people can automatically find that relatable than they would find something that happened with BoJack's mother relatable. You know what I mean? Like,
no, you're absolutely right. I'll also freely admit that I am going to be a little more biased towards BoJack just because I'm a guy. I don't have as relatable as experience. I know people, and I have relatability through that, that have gone through struggles similar to Tuca and Bertie. But I think there's just that implicit bias, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, I think what it comes down to is they're both very good episodes. They both cover relatable content, but I think your preference would more so lean towards what you've had more experience with and what you can relate to more. Personally, it's hard for me to say, because as far as like tie-in, I think that the BoJack episode is better because it leads to more. But for my preference, I would have to say the Tuca and Bertie episode, only because it's automatically the relatability is right there. The BoJack episode, it's there, but you have to watch it a few times in order to get everything that's happening. Tuca and Bertie is immediate. You only need to watch it once. It's very to the point. But that's just my reasoning. I do think that they're both very good episodes, though.
That's totally fair. I think any reason to like either of these episodes is a completely valid reason.
Yeah.
Now, Monsters, before you answer which one you like more, here's my question. Which one of these episodes, and this doesn't really matter, but like which one of these episodes do you feel you got more of a complete episode out of? Right? Like you despite not knowing anything about what happened before or after, which one do you feel like you had a more satisfying, complete experience with?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'll say Tuca and Bertie just because with BoJack, I mean, this episode is 4 seasons in. There's a lot that you kind of need to know to be really like in on the experience. And with Tuca and Bertie, it just felt a bit more contained.
That's totally fair. Okay, so which one did you prefer, man?
I prefer the Old Sugarman place. I love the Tuca and Bertie episode. It was just for me at least, it felt at times a little bit too high energy. I like high energy stuff in certain doses, like especially in action shows, but I don't know. I wasn't feeling it all the way here, but I still really enjoyed the episode.
That's totally fair. I mean, I think that was my big criticism, especially with like the first episode of Tuca and Bertie, is that at times it felt a little too manic for its own good, to the point where it was kind of undercutting, its more serious things. And I think the series definitely settled in a bit by now, by like the second to last episode. But yeah, it is a more manic show, and my preference is similarly to yours, Monsters, would lie in I guess, I don't want to say like a more boring. It's not more boring. It's just more quieter. I guess quieter. And,
it's more calm.
And right. Well, it's also, think about it like this. Tuca and Bertie is literally 2 protagonists that are constantly talking to each other and bouncing off each other. Whereas BoJack, although there's of course a cast of characters, a chunk of this episode, BoJack literally spends by himself.
Right. He's a pretty lonely guy, and I think there was a lot more in BoJack that clicked with me. I think the story and lore kind of hooked me in more as well, and I just really appreciate the layers and substance that the episode had.
And I feel like as you're right, Lea, I think as a message that's like instantly relatable and instantly applicable and something that people are going to get right away, I do think that the Jelly Lakes is better for that. But I'm sorry. I don't need to defend my opinion. I don't know what I'm doing.
No. I mean, I definitely
right,
see
Lea.
why.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think that's interesting. And I think that both these shows can exist very, very well alongside each other. I don't think that Tuca and Bertie is a rehash of BoJack. I think Tuca and Bertie builds off of certain elements of BoJack and clearly shares a lot of the same team. I mean, the creator of BoJack is like, he's credited as a producer on Tuca and Bertie. And the creator of Tuca and Bertie, I believe, was a writer on BoJack. She
I
did
believe
something.
so. Yeah. I know that they don't take place in the same universe because she explicitly mentioned that. But you do clearly see the parallels because they're adults running away from their problems in both of them in very similar ways.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that was a very heavy discussion.
Yeah.
But that was good. I think that was really good. Monsters, you got some trivia for us?
I do. We'll be doing true or false facts with BoJack Horseman. Pieguy will go first, then Lea. There's 5 prompts. You don't really have to be in on the show to, I guess, to get these right or wrong.
Uh-oh.
I tried making this fairly accessible.
Okay.
So, here we go. All right. Actually, I rescind my last statement for the first prompt. All right, here we go. Prompt number 1. The original Horsin' Around ran for 9 seasons from 1987, or between 1987 and 1996. Pieguy, is that true or false?
You said 9?
9 seasons, yes.
True.
Okay.
I'm gonna say true, too, because I feel like BoJack said that before.
It was either 9 or 11 seasons, but I want to say 9.
All right, that's correct.
And in the series finale, they killed off the horse. It's dark.
All right, so you guys both have a point. Let's move on to prompt number 2. Unlike most other animated shows, there's a table read during the production of each BoJack episode where the voice actors can interact. Is that true or false, Pieguy?
You're making me think here because, I mean, okay, let me. Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
That unlike most animated shows, that part wouldn't be the true or false part, right?
No.
Okay, because I know of quite a few shows that do this. But you're right, not most of them. Anyway, I'll say that's true.
Okay.
I'll say it's true too because I know a lot of shows do that, so that way the interactions sound more organic.
Well, yeah, that's correct.
Yep. Yeah, especially because I know The Simpsons does it too. Especially like 22-minute adult cartoons tend to.
Yeah, I think Steven
Guy
Universe does it too, just because you want to make sure that there's chemistry between the actors.
All right, so you guys are both tied at 2 points. Moving on to prompt number 3. Each season has a rating of 90% or higher on the Rotten Tomatoes tomato meter.
My heart wants this to be true. I don't think it's true, but I want it to be true so badly that I might just say true anyway. Now this tomato meter.
Do you want me to answer it before you?
Yeah, this isn't the audience score. This is the official
critics?
Yes.
You know what? False.
Yeah, I was going to say false. I was going to say if you want to say true, I'll just say false.
Well, you guys are both correct. All the rest of them do, but season 1 has a 67%.
Because when the show first came out, there was like 3 or 4 episodes preview with critics, and critics didn't like early BoJack, which I don't understand because early BoJack is fine. It's not amazing, but it's still really funny. Like BoJack arguing about the muffins is still like one of my favorite things.
A 67% though, that's super low. That's like barely passing.
But I mean, remember, if it gets bad press at the start, like that's that. No one's gonna go back and re-review it on there.
Right.
Anyway, listen. You and I know it, but a lot of critics are sheeps. It's true.
Yeah.
No, it's true. It's a bandwagon thing. Anyway, they all have over
Says
90%
us.
in my heart. Yeah, well.
the Disney remake guys now. All right, so you guys are both tied at 3. Number 4. The BoJack opening theme was never intended to be the show's theme. It was just a sample track that Patrick Carney made while testing out his new home studio.
True.
I'm going to say that's true because that's far too detailed.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I knew that, but yeah, Monsters.
I didn't know it was just it was far too detailed for it to be false.
Yeah, Patrick Carney, he's related to Ralph Carney, who has some sort of involvement in the show. He might be the creator, but Patrick Carney is the drummer for the Black Keys, if you've heard of that band. So yeah, he made the opening music. All right, so you guys are tied at 4. Now on to the final prompt. Comedian and actor Will Ferrell guest stars in the season 2 episode Yes and as a member of Todd's comedy troupe.
False.
False? Okay. Lea?
False, because I feel like it would have been advertised.
A Netflix show?
I don't know.
Well, you guys are right. It's correct.
I appreciate you trying to trip her up, Monsters.
I feel like it would have been advertised. That's why I'm just like.
Well, did you guys know who BoJack's grandfather is played by?
No.
No.
Oh God.
Do you know?
No. Yeah, no. It's Broderick. It's Michael Broderick.
Matthew Broderick.
Matthew Broderick.
You mean the dude who played like adult Simba and Ferris Bueller and
in the producers? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a celebrity.
Yeah.
They didn't advertise that very well.
The husband of Sarah Jessica Parker. All right. Well, you guys both won. Tied at 5. I don't feel like doing a tiebreaker. So congrats. You guys are BoJack trivia champions.
Yay.
Monsters, next time you do trivia, you got to make it harder.
Okay.
You gotta embrace your inner me and ask some really awful questions.
Yeah, but who likes losing?
Pie likes it when other people lose. That's why he's saying.
When 2 people are competing against each other, someone's got to win.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
we
no one's...
both won in
All right,
our
that's
hearts.
Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I will take any excuse to talk about BoJack, and I will also take any excuse to talk to you, Lea, because you are great to talk about this stuff with.
Thanks, Lea.
Aw. Thank you. I had a lot of fun. I like talking about serious subjects, like I've said, but...
All right. So make sure you watch Monsters with Drake and Josh video, and PIEGUYRULZ out.
Bye, guys.
Catch you guys next time.